Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
People think that a locally owned and operated appliance store may not offer what they need. Actually, we have trained and dedicated sales associates, expert delivery and installation, professional repair service, and personal customer service. Plus, we have access to a huge local warehouse with over 6,000 models in stock. Crane Appliance. We call the Cape and Islands home. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by Meganet Communications. Meganet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
The Quarterdeck Restaurant, located on Main Street in the heart of Falmouth, specializing in fresh local seafood and other classic American cuisine, featuring a full bar with friendly staff. And the Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, located in North Falmouth just off Nathan Ellis Highway, featuring catering services with 2 full event rooms serving up classic Italian cuisine. The Quarterdeck Restaurant and Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, we're here to serve all our friends in Falmouth.
Good evening. Welcome to the April 5th, 2021 Falmouth Select Board meeting. I am just going to call the meeting to order. When I call your name, just please say you are present. Taylor?
Taylor, present.
Patterson?
Patterson, present.
Brown?
Brown, present.
Jones?
Jones, present.
English Braga, present. Just a reminder, we're conducting this meeting remotely in accordance with the governor's orders, as we've done for about a year now. You're able to participate in this meeting in real time. If you'd like, you can go to the Falmouth Select Board website on the Town of Falmouth's web page, and you can see the link in order to join and comment in the chat with the chat function, or ask to be added as a panelist if there's an issue you want to speak on. If there are individuals who aren't comfortable with that process and still wish to be heard about a matter that is on our agenda, you can reach out to us in advance and we will read your comment into the record. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to go into executive session under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, vote to affirm memorandum of agreement with the Falmouth Police Patrol Federation and to discuss collective bargaining strategy with respect to contract renewals for all unions. And as chair, I declare that not to go into executive session could prejudice the town's position in the future. So with that, I have a motion to adjourn to executive session, and we will then come back to this open meeting once we're done with our business. So I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Patterson, second.
Okay, all those in favor? Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
Jones?
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay, we're going to adjourn to executive session, then we return here when we're done with that business. Okay, welcome back. We have just been in executive session. We're returning to open session, and I have already called the meeting to order. Just to note again, we have been in executive session discussing the memorandum of agreement with the Falmouth Police Patrol Federation, and I think if Mr. Suso or Mr. Johnson-Staub would like to make an announcement on that, that would be great.
Certainly happy to do so, Madam Chair. The board has approved a one-year agreement with the Police Patrolmen's Federation, which is our largest police union, that includes a 2% cost of living adjustment consistent with other bargaining units. In addition to that, a 2% adjustment representing an agreement, a concurrence with the town that we move forward to eliminate civil service from the town's hiring process for a police officer, a matter of great significance to the town, obviously, and something that we have been discussing for a considerable period of time. So we're pleased to have that agreement in place. It is just a one-year agreement and effective in the current fiscal year. And that had been underway in negotiations behind the scenes for some time. So that has been concluded, and we appreciate it very much.
Great, thank you. We know it takes a lot to get through those negotiations. So thanks to everyone who participated. So I would ask you to join me in a pledge of allegiance now that we're back in open session. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have, let me just get this stuff in order. We have some proclamations. The first is for the national, this is out of order here, sorry. First is for Arbor Day.
Yep.
Proclamation. Whereas the town of Falmouth benefits from the graceful canopy of tree limbs that shades us from the blazing summer sun, purify our air of contaminants, provide a peaceful respite from the ordinary world, and generally beautify our community. And whereas the town has been recognized by a national program and is known far and wide as Tree City, and whereas the Falmouth Tree Warden, Falmouth Garden Club, and Falmouth Public Schools recognize the aesthetic value of the beautiful trees of Falmouth by organizing a day to celebrate the purity and strength exemplified by a statuesque tree and all living green things, and thereby honor the trees of Falmouth by singing songs, sharing thoughts, and teaching more about the value of our trees. And now, therefore, we, Megan English Braga, Douglas C. Brown, Douglas H. Jones, Samuel H. Patterson, and Nancy R. Taylor, as the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 30th, 2021, as Arbor Day. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused a great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed this day, Monday, April 5th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye.
Just one
Great.
note, Madam Chair. Just
Yes.
a little slip of the tongue. You said 2020, but it's 2021.
Oh, sorry. 2021. We are moving out of 2020. We're not
Let's
going
forget
back.
about 2020.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Thank you. Next, we have National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, which is April 11th through the 17th, 2021. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Falmouth Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunications are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Falmouth Emergency Communications Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Select Board for the Town of Falmouth declares the week of April 11th through the 17th, 2021 to be the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the Town of Falmouth, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keeping our community and citizens safe. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused a great seal, the Town of Falmouth to be affixed.
Patterson, second.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. We also have National Library Week. If anybody wishes to read one of these, jump in. I don't want to be a proclamation hog, but I have them in front of me, so I'm happy to do them. I get greedy about these.
You're doing just great. Go
Okay. For it. Proclamation, National Library Week, April 4th through the 10th, 2021. Whereas libraries are the heart of our town, fostering a sense of belonging and community, and have long served as trusted and treasured institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas Falmouth is fortunate to have both 3 public municipal libraries, Main, East Falmouth, and North, and 2 independent nonprofit libraries, West Falmouth and Woods Hole, demonstrating the high level of support for these great institutions. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that welcome everyone to use their resources, providing access to computers and Wi-Fi, whose services extend far beyond the 4 walls of their buildings. And whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are diverse as the populations they serve, to offer opportunities for everyone to explore new worlds and become their best selves through access to technology, multimedia content, and educational programs. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. In times of crisis, libraries, librarians, and library workers play an invaluable role in supporting their communities, both in person and virtually. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, proclaim National Library Week, April 4th through the 10th, 2021. During this week, we encourage all residents to visit their library and make use of their library resources and services. Because of you, libraries transform lives and communities. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed on April 5th, 2021.
Patterson, second.
Okay. All those by roll call. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown eye.
English Braga, aye. And can I just say that, it's nothing short of heroic what the libraries were able to pull off during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really just to be able to have access to books during that time, I think was really just life-saving and life-improving for so many people and families. So we are incredibly fortunate. Okay, No Guff Week. Whereas No Guff Day has been celebrated since 2001 at Falmouth High School, when Greg Gilbert and Doug Rebasol worked with students to find a proactive way to handle conflicts and came up with the phrase No Guff. Since Mr. Rebasol's tragic death that same year, No Guff has been celebrated in his remembrance. And whereas by taking the pledge and making a concerted effort to observe the No Guff mantra, community members work together and support each other in keeping a positive attitude and creating a positive environment. The No Guff pledge is, I will not speak, text, or post anything negative about anyone for an entire day. And whereas celebrating No Guff can raise awareness, change the environment, and help people feel better about themselves and others by discouraging negative remarks, put-downs, and bullying. And whereas the town of Falmouth is a No Guff community, celebrations and observations are planned throughout the week. Falmouth citizens are encouraged to come up with creative ways to celebrate No Guff concept at home, at school, at work, and during leisure time. Now, wherefore, we, Megan English Braga, Douglas C. Brown, Douglas H. Jones, Samuel H. Patterson, and Nancy R. Taylor, as the Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, by authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim upon citizens of Falmouth to participate in all activities related to the No Guff policy and proclaim April 12th through the 16th, 2021 as No Guff Week. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed on April 5th, 2021.
Patterson, second.
Okay, all those by roll call, please. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown eye.
English Braga, aye. Okay, I wanted to, go down to recognition. Does anyone have anything for this week?
I just want to mention that terrible event at the Capitol building where the crazy person with the car drove into those two Capitol police officers, and it's just very upsetting that we have these type of assaults and attacks on police officers. You know, it's a difficult job, and we have a hard time hiring people in Falmouth because of the nature of the work, not because Falmouth's a bad city, but it's just the whole environment and the atmosphere around being a police officer. And when you see these kind of things, it's heartbreaking. It's so saddening. I just wish it would stop.
Yeah. And especially after all the things that the Capitol Police have been through in the last few months. So just
absolutely
continues for them. So
another one of them took their own life a couple of weeks after the previous incident at the Capitol.
Yeah.
It's just so upsetting, and it's just a tragedy.
Yeah. Thank you for having us reflect on that. Any announcements from the board? Doug Brown?
I want to announce to people that Falmouth Net group, which is promoting the fiber optic cable, is meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. online on Zoom. So anyone that's interested to learn more about that or discuss it or have comments, you can just go on Falmouth Net, look it up. You can Google search it. It'll pop right up, and you can go onto their website and get the information about logging in.
Great, thank you. And a reminder, we do have 2 precinct meetings left this week. I know town meeting members are aware of that. So just a reminder, if you're a town meeting member, please try to participate if you can. It really helps to have, town meeting run smoother if you're able to ask your questions when, in advance, get some of those basic answers if you need it.
And I had planned on attending the Falmouth Net thing at 7, but my Precinct 9 meeting is at 7 on Wednesday also. So it's a conflict. So if other select board members are interested in the Falmouth Net meeting and don't plan to go to the precinct meeting then?
Yes, I did sign up for the, I registered for the net meeting on Wednesday.
Great.
I think it's
right. And I think,
yeah, it is.
And Mr. Patterson did. So we'll have 2 members there. So
perfect.
Great. Okay. Public comment. I know I saw something from Karen Bissonette. I think she wanted to speak in public during public comment. So if we could please bring her over. And I'll just, as we're doing that, I will remind the public that public comment is a period of time for up to 2 minutes for an individual to speak on an issue that is not on the agenda. Because it's not on the agenda, the board is not permitted under open meeting law to respond to you. So it's really your opportunity to make yourself heard on a particular issue. And often, as is the case, those issues become matters that are on our agenda in coming weeks. So welcome, Karen, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I am just following up on an email that I sent to all of you. It will be 2 weeks tomorrow. And I've yet to hear back on how some housing advocates can get involved with the Cape Cod Country Club. And I was really, as I said in my email, I was surprised that the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee and the housing coordinator did not know that there were negotiations going on. So I would really like, we missed an opportunity, I think, with Andrews Farm, and I would hate to lose the opportunity here. And I think that we should really look at, and I would suggest that we reserve polls number 4 and 5 for community housing, and that we really should look into that because I think that they're a good location for housing, and there's a lot of land there. And I have spoken with John Edmond of Cape Cod Commission to get his advice as well. And what I'm really doing is I'm looking to all of you to point me in the right direction as to how to get involved and get at a seat at the table, not just me, but other housing advocates, so that, we can try to do something. Because as we know, the town has a commitment to affordable housing, and the governor has asked that we build 135,000 new units for all sorts of housing in the next few years. So it is something that should be at the top of our list. And so I'm just hoping that you, someone can respond to me and tell me how we go about doing that. And I also would like the housing coordinator to be able to coordinate. And since she didn't know anything about it, it's really hard for her to coordinate community housing if she doesn't know anything about it. So that is my public comment. So I'm hoping to hear back from someone. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Suso? You're just muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to correct I think a misconception which has been underway. I just want to affirm as town manager, I'm aware of no negotiations underway regarding affordable housing and that development whatsoever. So speaking about seats at the table and involvement of individuals, if there's any discussions underway, they have not involved the town manager or the town manager's office, and I'm not aware of any.
Okay, I'll just respond to that by saying that the representative from the AMP Energy cited working with the town manager and have had him suggest some areas for affordable housing. That's where I took that from. So I assumed that there had been a conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far afield because it's not on our agenda, but my thought was I think he was talking prospectively that would be something that we could do. But we can kind of dig deeper into that.
Okay, I would appreciate it. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
If I could just add informationally, I'm not responding to it, but just the little bit that I know about it. The developer himself on a phone call with myself mentioned, he just threw it out there that he says, I'm not a housing developer, but I see a place over there. Maybe you might want to put some affordable housing. He was just throwing it out there as a thing that just a kind of another incentive for us to consider. That anything has been figured out.
Should I contact them directly? Would that be the best thing to do?
So what I don't want to have much more conversation about this because it's just going to, we'll follow up with it.
Okay.
With you, Karen. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Okay. So next we have, I don't think we have anyone else for public comment. I was looking, I will keep an eye out if anything happens. So under summary of actions, excuse me, approve application for a pledge of collateral of an all-alcoholic common victular license, Shipwrecked LLC, 263 Grand Avenue, Falmouth. This, just a reminder, this application was previously approved by the Select Board. The application was mailed to the ABCC. The applicant has also applied for a pledge of collateral. This office has received the required application supporting documents.
Move approval of the pledge of collateral.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Great, thank you. B, approve application for a change of hours, 10 a.m. Sunday opening of an all-alcoholic club license, Seacoast Shores Association, Inc., 7 Fairview Lane, East Falmouth.
Just remind the board that we actually have no authority to deny this one. It is really a pro forma informing us they're doing that, and they have that right, and we cannot do anything but approve it.
Thank you. That makes that easy. So is that a motion to approve, Mr. Jones?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay, we have approved application for a change of manager of a common victular license, the Black Dog Heights Cafe, 465 Grand Avenue, Falmouth. Looks like we have, okay, the applicant is coming on. Okay.
You may not know.
Yep. There we go. Welcome. Is it Puccillo or? Okay. If you just want to unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome. So we're just taking a look. It looks like everything from the departments is in order. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Puccillo?
Is this just common victualler?
Yes.
No, there's no alcohol involved with the Black Dog?
Pardon?
There's no alcohol involved with Black Dog?
This is for the food and alcohol approval.
Okay, then that's not what it says. It says just common victualler.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Suso has his hand up. So can you speak to that, Mr. Suso?
Yes. Speaking to Diane, the alcohol portion would come with a later application. This is strictly the food only.
Okay.
Okay. As long as you're aware of that, there's another step that has to be done for the alcohol component of it.
Okay.
Any questions on the for Ms. Puccillo?
No, common victualler, I have no problem. There will be other questions at the alcohol, but at this point, I would move approval.
Okay.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Jones,
Jones, aye.
Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Brown,
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. So, Ms. Pucillo, just be in touch with Diane Davidson at the town manager's office, just so you can do that next step for the alcohol, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Under administrative orders, vote to extend temporary construction easement for Gifford Street, previously granted to Locust Field LLC to April 29th, 2022. Mr. Suso, do you just want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We understand from the developer, given the timing of this 40B development, that some additional time is needed to allow this temporary easement for construction purposes to complete the project. And that's a recommendation coming in through staff members as well. And we bring that to the board for your consideration of a one-year extension.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay,
Patterson.
thank you. And I know that I think we had received late today some concerns about, it was at that particular site, Mr. Suso, and that will be on at a later date?
It was a neighbor raising a concern about some construction activity beginning
too early.
Allegedly early. I think this was a gas line connection. A company just connecting a gas line allegedly had done it too early, and a complaint was filed. We have had our zoning inspector out there on more than one occasion speaking with the representatives of the contractor. This looks like it's going to be a continuing challenge, and our zoning inspector is aware of that and is I've asked him to remain vigilant about it.
Okay, so just I see Mr. McClone is on, I believe. So just I see him in the chat, just to kind of heads up, and I'm sure he's already aware that there are some concerns from abutters, and so hopefully that can be sorted out with the appropriate department head. So yes, Mr. Jones.
I just have a question about the timing. So I think we gave this first easement in September 2019 till end of December 2020. So this temporary easement actually expired 4 months ago. And now they're asking for an additional year and a half from now. Is that correct?
Peter, it looks like he's joined us. Go ahead, Peter.
That is correct. The project was delayed in part because of appeals at the ZBA and in part by construction. So there has been good communication between the owner and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we are supportive of this extension of the easement.
Okay.
Okay.
It just seems that already it was going to be 14 months, and now it's an additional whole year from now, when I know they've gotten a lot done, at least some done in the past year and a half. But if we support it, that's fine.
I would just add that we encourage them to ask for more time than they thought they might need, just so that they wouldn't have to come back.
Perfect. Good answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Good question. Thank you, Doug. All right. We have a motion from Sam. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Great, thank you. Okay, we have under letter B, approve a letter from the town manager to Mass DOT on behalf of the select board involving a number of issues related to Woods Hole Road. Mr. Suso, do you want to speak to this, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. You'll recall at your last meeting, select board member Doug Jones raised this concern regarding a number of matters related to Woods Hole Road. This has been talked about at various committee meetings, including with the Steamship Authority. And I had pursuant to that, I drafted the letter that appears in your board packet. Happy to amend that in any way if the board would like to expand on it or alter it. It is a draft that I believe represents the intent of what has been raised, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, any comments on this draft? Sam?
Just a question. I noticed we received a police report recently about a car overturn on Woods Hole Road. Is that speed related?
I don't know if we have that answer just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have that answer. I'd want to defer to police and I want to be very careful about making a representation.
Okay.
Any other questions or corrections or edits that people would suggest, Nancy?
I just don't know what jake braking is. What does that mean?
That's when the big trucks try to slow themselves down and you hear that really loud kind of reverberating
pump, pump, pump.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
They're using
engine and transmission to slow down. It's very noisy as opposed to using their brakes.
They use the vacuum from, the engine to actually pump the brakes, and it just makes a very loud boom, 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 boom kind of noise.
Yeah.
It really does vibrate, and it, if you're in a house nearby, you're bound to hear it shaking the walls.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my only question.
And our complaints have been, particularly early in the morning when we have, folks the big trucks trying to make the early ferry, and then they have the jake brakes on at, 5, 6 in the morning. It's really disruptive. So
the reason that the trucking companies want to use the jake brakes is it cuts down on the wear on the brake shoes and their maintenance costs. So that's the reason for jake brakes at all.
Yeah. So any other edits or thoughts about this letter?
No, thank you, Mr. Sousa, for getting informed.
Perfect. Okay. So we will approve. Do I have a motion to approve the letter?
I would move we approve this letter.
Okay. Okay.
I've also heard from the Steamship Authority that they would like to send their letter requesting the same and supporting our request.
Oh, okay. That's great. Well, maybe we can make sure we follow up on that, Mr. Suso, and hopefully see that happen. That would be.
Maybe a copy of this should be forwarded to the Steamship Authority manager.
I'll add them as a CC.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've seen some areas like Woods Hole Road, when you're especially going down the hill, where there's a sign that basically says no jake brakes. And it seems like that's what the state should be putting up. We
had them for a while, and then we took them down because they hadn't been put up, I think, by the appropriate authority. Yes. So, hopefully it can be returned to raise that awareness. Yeah. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, by roll call, please. Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Great. Okay. Vote to approve use of the Bell Tower Ball Field, Woods Hole, by Hui and USCG for a helicopter and autonomous underwater vehicle demonstration on Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Excuse me. I think we have, is Amy Kukulia, are you going to, is your assistant there going to present? Welcome.
Sorry. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for adding me to your agenda. Yes. So I sent an overview document, but here in Woods Hole, we've been working with the Coast Guard as part of a Center of Excellence project with DHS. We've been developing a helicopter portable AUV to respond to emergency emergency response, like oil spills. So we are ready to have the opportunity to test the capability. And so the Coast Guard does these pics all the time. And they're using an approved sling, and we would like to have the opportunity to use the Bell Tower Field as our pick site, because it's really close to our deployment area in Buzzards Bay, and the helicopter will have to fly over any houses. So we asked for use of the field for the entire day, but the actual use will be over probably 60 to 120 minute period of time on the 15th.
Okay, great. Questions?
Will you be, sorry.
Go ahead, Doug Jones, and then Doug Brown.
Okay.
I really don't have a question as much as a comment. I was so thrilled to hear you mention Centers of Excellence. I'm not sure anyone knows about that. There's actually something that Dick Kendall and my mother formed many, many years ago, and would love to have you tell us what field is it that we're creating the Center of Excellence for?
Yeah, so this Center of Excellence is all about responding to emergencies in the Arctic. So this is going back about 8 or 9 years ago, when the Crystal Serenity was going to be making its maiden voyage through the Northwest Passage, and Shell was up there about to drill, and DHS realized there was absolutely zero infrastructure in the Coast Guard to be able to respond if something were to happen. So they created the Center of Excellence for that purpose.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's great. So we'll have your mom and Dick in our thoughts when this happens. What a great thing to be happening in our neck of the woods. Doug Brown, you had a question
just
or
curious.
comment?
Is this just a deploy, or also is it going to be bringing it back?
Yeah, Doug, thanks for the question. It's just a deploy. There's obviously another aspect to recovery with the helicopter that'll be for a later date, but we will have a boat on site, and the vehicle, if all goes well, will run a mission for a number of days, and then a boat will recover it.
Okay, thank you.
I also noticed that where the helicopter will be going is over a place so that there are no houses. It's a very short path to get from Bell Tower field to the water itself.
Yes.
So, primary piece is just to make sure that the public is aware, because anytime folks see a helicopter or that, they automatically think emergency or something's not going right. So part of this is obviously to raise the public awareness and say it's okay. It's a really wonderful event, and it's a positive planned event. We don't want people to feel alarmed. So Nancy?
I just read what the document that you submitted, and it sounds incredibly interesting. Can anyone go and watch?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we are going to be, there'll be the Hui media team will be there. There'll be a lot of folks filming. There'll be an article that comes out of Woods Hole. And the Coast Guard is going to be interested in also advertising it afterwards and developing a procedure actually that'll go into the Coast Guard books for the future. So my question is to you, what can I do for the town to help promote that? And I'm happy to also do, outreach. As Doug Jones knows, having taught at Children's School of Science, I'm a big fan of doing whatever I can to promote our community, especially in schools. So I'm happy to do what anybody feels is necessary to promote this.
Right. Sam, and then Doug Brown?
Just share some experience. I was at a Coast Guard exhibition of a helicopter, and it was an area where the soils were a little bit sandy. And if you're standing anywhere near that site, you're going to have sand blown at you. So sunglasses or some kind of glass eye protection would be recommended, and maybe even insisted on, because you will get sand blown your way if there's anything loose in the soils where that helicopter comes down.
Yes, Sam. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. The Coast Guard wears these full headgear pieces and helmets and goggles, and that's why we decided not to do it at a beach. Mm-hmm. So everybody within there's a 50-foot swath, and anybody within that 50-foot swath will have to don safety gear.
Very cool. Really exciting. Nancy, and then Doug Brown.
Just quickly, does the school district, are they aware that you're doing this?
No, it's, I feel like we're riding on our heels here. The Coast Guard just got to me and just picked this date. And so that's why we're scrambling last minute, because we were waiting for an opportunity. So, and until I got approval, I didn't want to get anybody all excited.
Yeah. Well, now you should get everybody excited. So
yeah, you might want to just send this document and the date to the superintendent. Because I just think it's a really nice thing that you're doing, and it might be awesome for the science people to know that you're doing it.
I would suggest that you contact FCTV, and maybe they can do a live thing. The only trouble with Bell Tower Lane is there's no place for anyone to park. So if you invite a crowd, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah, I can discuss that with Hui Facilities, because they have a parking lot nearby. So before I make any promises about that parking lot, I don't want to overstep my reach here, but I can talk to Hui and see what's possible. Yes. And if you want, I don't know if you want me to communicate back with you with the latest, like what's happening. I'd happy to do that via email.
Sure, we'd love to hear. Just be in the know.
Have you nailed down the time yet?
No, with the Coast Guard, they're obviously weather is the limiting factor. They need a 500-foot ceiling to fly. So, and that's probably the main limiting factor. And obviously, if it's blowing over 20, we'll cancel. So I'm hoping to keep the window open just for weather.
And can we make this an adjustable date on our motion when we vote it?
Yeah, but I knew you were going to ask that, and it's I went back to the Coast Guard and asked about a date, and it's one of those. It doesn't have a rain date. We'll just have to plan it.
Start again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
Okay.
it took 4 months to get this date, so I really don't know. Honestly.
Okay.
Long-term forecast looks good, though.
Yes. Yeah. It happens to be my birthday, so that'll be a
Oh, nice.
Hey.
Maybe get a video done of it so it can be shared with other people. Like FCTV would probably be happy to do that for you.
Yeah,
That's
that's
sounds
great.
great.
Thank you so much. Sounds really
Thank you.
exciting. So I think, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, second. Okay, I've got 5 seconds, 5 approval. All those in favor by roll call. Jones?
I guess I'll vote yes now.
Yeah, right on the fence. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown eye.
English Braga, aye. Great. Thank you, Amy, very much. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Fingers crossed for it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, we are going to move. We have some public hearings. So let me just get to. Okay, let me read the public hearing notice. The Falmouth Select Board will hold a public hearing under Section 24077 Wetland Regulations of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, April 5th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Town Hall, on the application of Gerald T. and Margaret T. Robinson for a proposed waterfront improvement project, which includes the construction and maintenance of an aluminum gangway, timber pier extension, ramp, T-flow, and pilings, as well as other water and utility installation in and over the waters of Green Pond, located at 290 Acapasket Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Interested parties may review the file on this hearing in the town manager's/select board office at Town Hall. This was published per the Falmouth Select Board, March 19th, 2021, and March 26th, 2021 in the Falmouth Enterprise. Okay, so are the applicants present or someone on behalf of the applicants? Okay, I think I see Tim Santos from Holmes and McGrath coming on. Hi, welcome. How are you?
Good evening. Tim Santos from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant.
Great, thank you. What can you tell us about this particular project?
With your permission, I will share my screen if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Can everybody see that nice colored drawing?
Yes.
Okay, for the record, Tim Santos from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant. Property is located at 290 Acapesket Road, and it has water frontage along Green Pond, currently developed with an existing single-family home and a licensed timber pier. This project has recently gone before conservation, and the applicant is proposing to extend a aluminum walkway out to a new fixed pier, ramp, and float. Project met all of conservation's requirements, and conservation has issued an order of conditions on this project. And we are now in our next phase step to hopefully receive your board's approval so that we can apply for a DEP waterways permit plan in order to license the new structures and get them constructed. So I will stop sharing, or I can leave it up if you want.
Why don't you leave it up,
Okay.
And I'll ask this board if they have any questions for Mr. Santos. Doug Jones.
Can you, some of the details I couldn't find out in my packet. The length of the walkway is because the water depth is such that you need to get out that far. Is that correct?
Correct. So let me, if you don't mind, I can just kind of zoom in a little more. So this section right here, where I'll go to the hand to make it easier. This section right here is the existing fixed pier that's constructed. It's about a 60-foot section that we're going to span with an aluminum walkway out to a new fixed section, down to a ramp and float. The float's approximately 100 feet off of the mean high water mark. The reason why it's out that far is in order to satisfy the requirements of the shellfish requirements for conservation, we needed to be a certain distance away from the area B where there was shellfish, although it didn't meet the triggers of the threshold. There were shellfish in this area. So,
okay. Question number 2: and how far does it go compared to the channel?
So hold on, I'm just trying to move it over, which it doesn't seem to be.
I'm just not sure how far that channel.
Yeah. So from the end of the proposed flow out to this channel line, I believe is about 80 feet.
And then how far across is the whole channel?
I think it was 270 something feet.
So we're nowhere near the 25% mark.
Correct. It's underneath that.
Okay. And final question, the order conditions, were they asking for restriction to one boat?
I'm not sure if that was placed in the order of conditions. Typically it is one of their conditions, but the applicant's aware of it, and he only plans to have one power boat out at the seaward, the mooring end of the seaward float.
Because in my packet, I just did not find the typical order of conditions that we usually see.
It has been voted. It has been approved. You know, the applicant's well aware that it's beyond the timeline, and we're being very patient because we understand how everybody is very busy at the town and everywhere else. I've spoken with Jen. They just haven't had a chance to issue it yet.
Okay.
So I can't tell you if it's in there, but typically that's a condition that they would put in there.
Well, if they don't, I would like to make sure that we put that in.
That's not a problem.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay. So okay, great.
I'm sorry, I did have one more question. Are there, how many other docks are in that area right now? Can you give me an idea of that?
We did do the survey associated with the conservation requirements. There are no docks within 200 feet of that pier. To the north or to the south.
Is this going to be one out of, is this going to be 1% of the properties that have them, 50%?
I would probably say more in the 30 to 40% range.
Okay, thank you.
It has gone before Shellfish as well as the harbor master.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. I would ask, I don't know if there's anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of this application or in opposition. You can participate via the chat function if you're here to do so. Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the hearing?
I move we close the hearing.
Anderson, second.
Okay, by roll call, please. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor? She's muted, but I can see she's saying aye.
Taylor, aye.
Thank you. Brown?
Brown, aye.
Okay, English Braga, aye. So we've closed the hearing. And what is this board's pleasure?
I guess I'll start with some findings. One is that this fits in with the pattern of other properties having the same kind of a dock, that it is extending out into the waterway within the restrictions allowed by the Concom, and is also not creating a problem for shellfish, and add the condition that the applicant is agreeing to be the use of only one boat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How about the condition that it's only a certain percentage of the open waterway?
Or it's a finding that it's not beyond the 25%
correct
threshold. Okay.
Thank you.
And doesn't impede navigation.
Right.
Okay. Any other findings?
Not as many as we had in our last hearing for a dock, but that's okay.
Excellent. So with those findings too, I have a motion to approve.
With those findings, I move that we approve this application.
Patterson, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, please. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Great. Thank you, Mr. Santos. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Have a great week, everyone.
You too. Thank you. Okay, next we have approved application for a change of officers, directors, and change of stock interest of an all-alcoholic package store license, Norman's Liquors, DBA Cappy's, 21 Spring Bars Road, Falmouth. So we have the manager, Brian Wheeler, and I see Trish Farnsworth coming on.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
You should also have Stephen Selby.
Okay. Does anybody have that in their paperwork? Oh, you mean
Yep,
Stephen
there's
Selby
Stephen.
coming on?
Yes, coming on.
Great.
Yep,
Welcome, Stephen. There he is. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if you want to just kind of let the board know what it is and who everybody is in terms of
Sure.
this change.
Sure. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Madam Chair, Attorney Trish Farnsworth, and with me is Stephen Selby, the proposed owner. This is Cappy's Fine Wine and Spirits. I'm sure you're familiar with it, and it's a multi-generational family-owned business. They have numerous locations in the Commonwealth, and currently this Falmouth location is owned by Brian Moore, who is Stephen Selby's uncle. And it's going to be gifted now, 100% of the stock to Stephen Selby. So he'll be the sole stockholder and also sole officer and director, stepping in for Brian Moore. And Stephen currently has 2 other stores, Fitchburg and Hyannis. Grew up in this business, is tip certified and more than capable of owning and operating this location. He can tell you a little bit more, about his experience if you so please.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? No? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward and sounds like this is not a new business to you. You have fair amount of experience in this field, and actually your attorney has pointed out the things we usually ask, which about tip certification and experience in this arena. So any other questions from the board? Okay, do I have a motion to close this hearing?
So
I just realized I don't think I read the hearing notice.
Oh, and also we got to ask for public input,
Yep.
right?
Hold on one second. Does someone have the hearing notice right with them?
I think I can find it real quick.
I've got it. Okay.
Liquor license hearing. Want me to read
I've
it?
got it. Yep. I've got it right here. So my apologies. Let me just take a step back and read this notice. Okay. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Norman's Liquors, Inc., DBA Cappy's, has applied for a change of officers, directors, and a change of stock interest of its all-alcohol package store license located at 21 Spring Bars Road, Falmouth, Mass. The hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, April 5th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. on the above application. This was published March 26, 2021 in the Falmouth Enterprise. So we've, just to summarize, now that we've officially opened it, we've heard from Attorney Farnsworth that this is a transfer from an uncle to a nephew who is tip certified and who's worked in this industry for quite some time and has 2 other places of business, one in Hyannis and one in Fitchburg. And so let me ask now if there are any anyone in attendance who wants to use the chat function to speak either in favor of this application or in opposition. Please do so with the chat function now if you'd like to do that. I'll just give folks a minute. I don't see anything. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Moved.
Okay, second.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second to close the hearing. Any further discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve this change?
Do we vote to close the hearing? Or? I don't think we actually voted to close the hearing. We made a motion.
I'm just trying to fly right through this, so I'm skipping all the important things. So
we're right behind you.
Close the hearing by roll call. Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay. And do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none by roll call. Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Taylor,
Taylor, I.
Brown,
Brown eye.
English Braga, aye. This is what happens when you talk about wine at 7:50 at night. I just get really flustered. So thank you. Congratulations. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Okay, I'm going to move back to our regular agenda under special events. We have reoccurring events recommended. Kayak small boat fishing event, John Galvin, NE Basin, Coonamessett Pond, Saturday, 5/1/2021. Any questions about this event? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor by roll call. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, I.
Brown?
Brown eye.
English Braga, aye. What I might do is I'll read out the events. If there's one you want me to hold, please let me know. And otherwise, we can approve them as we go through, okay?
Just want to comment on the Wounded Warrior Rod.
Yes.
It is a scaled down, 20 riders this year because the COVID concerns are still real. So
Okay.
just want to let you know that.
Thank you. So we have Wounded Warrior Project Soldier Ride, Falmouth Military Support, Carroll Kenny, Bike Path, Friday, 5/21/2021. Falmouth Farmers Market, Marina Park, Thursdays, 5/27/2021 through 10/7/2021, and Tuesday, 11/23/21. Falmouth Classic Car Club Cruise In, Falmouth Classic Car Club Incorporated, Marina Park, Sundays, 6/13/2021, 7/11/2021, and 8/8/2021. Falmouth Art Market, Falmouth Cultural Council at Marina Park, Thursdays, 7/1/21 through 8/26/21. Sunday worship services, John Wesley United Methodist Church, Surf Drive Beach, Sundays, 7/4/2021 through 9/5/2021. The Rotary Club Craft Fair, Falmouth Rotary Club, Marina Park, Saturday, 9/4/21 and Sunday, 9/5/21. And the Kerwin-Murray Tour de Falmouth, Falmouth Housing Corp., Surf Drive Beach, start and finish Sunday, 10/10/2021. Any questions on any of these events?
The art market and farmers market are both on Thursdays. Is the art market later in the day?
I think it's part of the farmer's market, isn't it?
It's on the other side of the band shell.
Right.
So it's separated from the farmer's market physically.
But I think they're happening concurrently.
Yeah.
At the same time.
But they've done this before, as I recall. They're just
Separate
sharing
organizations.
the space.
Correct.
And
And I
Lindsay
think
Close says they're separate organizations in the chat.
Yeah.
And
And
they do
they
happen
finish up.
concurrent.
They finish up before the town band, should the town band be using it this summer.
Yep. Great.
Thank you.
And any other questions? And obviously, just so the public knows, all of these are, going to be conducted and are governed by, whatever orders the governor has in place related to COVID-19. There are certain restrictions, et cetera. And if those change, we have to address those as we did sort of in real time last year. Hopefully, we have a little bit more predictability, but we don't know. But if things change and we are directed as a municipality to respond differently, then we will review these once again and bring them back before us. So, okay. So with that, do I have a motion to approve those reoccurring recommended events?
So moved.
Okay, I have a go ahead, Doug.
I'm just thinking about the Marina Park is getting so popular, and we've had concerns from some of the boaters that it sometimes gets so crowded. I wonder if we should ask one of either the art market or the farmer's market to reconsider the day of the week.
I might say that this doesn't draw huge crowds. People kind of just dribble throughout the day. So you're not going to have a big overflow of demand for parking at any given time, unless there's a bizarre coincidence or something like that. So
okay, all right.
I don't think there's going to be a conflict there. I know what you're saying, but those are the big events, like the event that you sponsor, right?
On the water.
On the water, yeah. That's the one.
We moved our event out to the fairgrounds just because of that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Patterson, second.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call. Jones.
Jones, aye.
Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
Great. English Braga, aye. Okay. We have new events recommended. Boy Scout Troop 38 meetings, Marina Park, Tuesday evenings through June 2021. Dance performance, Turning Point Dance Studio, Bandshell, Sunday, 6/6/2021. Dance recital, Harper Dance Center, Bandshell, Saturday, 6/12/2021. Dance recital, Falmouth Dance Academy, Bandshell, Marina Park, Saturday, 6/19/2021. Beach wedding ceremony, Kelly Monahan, Old Silver Beach, Saturday, 8/21/2021. And beach wedding ceremony, Nambu Theory, Minot Beach West, Saturday, 7/17/2021. So just in regards to these, we did, Mrs. Whitehead did direct us to take a look at the policy for not, for for-profit groups using those spaces, and Diane did send that to us. So my understanding, Mr. Suso, please correct me if I'm wrong, that all applicable fees would be appropriately charged to the organizations, depending on their usage and their non-for-profit or profit status.
Correct. Consistent with the policy you've adopted. Correct.
Okay. Any other questions on those or concerns about any of those events?
I'm just a little concerned. We do usually see the applications themselves describing the number of people, the times and hours like that. And I guess I'm okay with trusting the internal working group to look over those things, but
it is nice to have them.
Agreed.
Yeah. There are some things that sometimes we've caught on or noticed that others haven't.
Yeah. So maybe if we could have them in the future, Mr. Suso, I think it would be helpful. Especially the wedding, oh, sorry, go ahead, Doug Brown.
I was just going to say, just the number of attendees is important right now, too.
Yep.
Yep. Great.
And then the parking issues as well. So we sort of need to manage that because it is our public property.
Yeah. And just, we had this issue with that parking piece for that wedding that time that wanted to park at Minot. I mean, I just want folks to understand, and I'm not totally sure, but the beach is just it's a permit to allow you to get married on the beach. It doesn't reserve parking spots. So on 8/20/21, Old Silver Beach, that parking lot could very well be completely full. So we just want applicants to make sure, if we can be clear, that they understand that this permit doesn't designate any specific parking spaces for them.
Yeah, they're notified accordingly.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We should also keep in mind, as I mentioned just previously, that the Marina Park, it's getting really popular and more people want to use it. And we got to think about the fact that the people that rent those slips down there are paying a lot of money, and they should be able to access their boats without being too crowded. So we got to be careful of not overcrowding that Marina Park with big events.
Yep.
These all
my guess
okay.
is, my guess is those recitals, this is a one-off because they don't have a space to do it during COVID. So hopefully everyone will be understanding that all those recitals that all those parents spent money on costumes got canceled last year. And so those kids have, probably been waiting a long time to do something.
Right.
But, okay. Any other questions? Comments?
For approval.
Okay. I have a motion to approve. I have a second. Seeing no further discussion by roll call, please. Jones?
Jones, aye.
Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Mr. Suso, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just want to confirm along the lines you commented on earlier. In your board packet is a list of a number of events that are not recommended at this time based on internal staff review because they are inconsistent with the governor's current emergency orders. So those are noted, but they have not been brought forward to recommend to the board, but they are part of your packet as well.
Yep.
And as you noted, should circumstances change, then we will monitor that and be talking to you further.
Great. Thank you. And it may be something just down the line, Mr. Suso, if we can kind of put it in our box for future agenda items, maybe to just have a little bit of a weigh-in about Marina Park and just kind of get a sense about usage and how, maybe a check-in, seeing kind of how that's going. Because Doug Brown raises a good point that we have, heard concerns from folks on.
Okay.
Okay, next we have under business, discussion update on COVID-19 issues. So our health agent, Scott McGann, here he is.
Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes.
Very well.
Awesome. I had some Zoom issues earlier and I was worried about that. If it's okay with you, I'll just share screen and we'll just get started. Okay. Everybody seeing that screen okay?
Yeah, is this your first time, Scott, coming here?
If you want me to add it up, I don't know. I'm probably 25 at least, I would think. I'm over 55 FCTV ones, so it's been
wow.
So let's get started. So we are in the final step of phase 2 as far as eligibility for vaccine. Starting today, individuals 55 and older and any individual with one certain medical condition is eligible as of today. And starting in 2 weeks, all individuals over age of 16. So what that tells me is if you are in phase 1 or phase 2 and you're seeking a vaccine, it's going to get more difficult come 4/19 because vaccine just doesn't start flowing at a much higher rate by the 19th. There'll be more, but it's not going to be appreciable more probably. And so you really, if you're in these phase 1 or phase 2, you'd really want to work the next couple of weeks before it really opens up to everybody to get vaccinated. So, so that's where we are. Individuals 55 and one certain medical condition are now eligible as of today. Okay. So if you're a certain worker, such as food, agricultural, public works, certain types of public health, utility workers, grocery workers, and anybody over 55, educators are all eligible. Okay. Where can you get the vaccine? So, you know, this has been a real clunky thing, but it seems to be working out sort of okay. You get the state mass vac sites, which is Dartmouth and Gillette. You'd go on mass.gov. You can pre-register. You can pre-register at any time. Once your availability comes up, you'd be notified and have 24 hours which to select the site, but to select the appointment that they have given you. That'll be either at the Dartmouth or Gillette. The pharmacies, you have the CVS, the Walgreens, the Osco. You could also get that through mass.gov or directly at the pharmacy site. Pharmacies have seen the biggest increase in dosage. They deal directly with the feds and they get their doses from the feds. That's where we've seen the state seen the largest increase among doses is among pharmacies. So your luck is getting better at the pharmacies. There are more pharmacies available that are starting to do it. I believe both CVSs are now doing it. You have the health department in the Barnstable County working together at the 4 Cs, the fairgrounds, and the Orleans DPW. Last week we did 900 doses at the fairgrounds and 900 doses at 4 Cs. Same thing for this week. So the fairgrounds this Thursday, 4 Cs on Tuesday and Wednesday. You also can see that at mass.gov. They're going to send you to the maimmunization.org website once you go through there. We do get a press release on Thursdays usually. The appointments open up around noontime on Fridays. We do put it on our website. So it does go on our website. Also, if you go on barnstablecountyhealth.org, you can also have the first thing that pops up is when you'd like to have notifications. You can sign up for notifications. You can be notified of the sign up. So those 3,510 doses do go quickly. The fairgrounds site went pretty quickly and went pretty smoothly last week, and I anticipate it'll be smoothly. The weather should be better this Thursday as it was last Thursday. Cape Cod Healthcare is not someplace you would make an appointment, but they do a lot of vaccinations. They would be contacting you. They currently deal with our vulnerable population. If you're over the age of 60 and you've had difficulty with the computer and you've had difficulty registering, you can go to the senior center and go that route. So they're also doing some food workers as well. Julie and Sia set up help Cape Cod Healthcare to do some of our food workers. And I sent that to all our food permit everybody who owns a food permit in Falmouth. I sent them an email with the link to not sign up for a shop, but to put themselves on a list. And I know for a fact that they are working through that list because some have been notified already. And of course, the Community Health Center of Cape Cod's doing the thing, helping us with the homebound, and they have taken care of quite a few of our homebound. And as new homebound people, if you're homebound, you also go through the senior center as well, and they'll do homebound visits for us. That's the Community Health Center of Cape Cod out of Mashpee. As far as vaccinations statewide, we're up 5% from the week of the 25th to the 1st of April, 44% for the county. Those are people that have received at least 1 dose. 2 doses is 27%, which is up 4%. Looking at Falmouth, this is the weekly, this comes from the state on Thursday night. So we are 44% of the town has had at least 1 dose, and 27% of the town is fully vaccinated. Those over 75 were at 90% with a single dose, 62% So some are still waiting for their second dose. 65 to 75 is 80%. So we're getting really close on that. That's been a 5% increase. Now, since the 65 to 75 have been more recent in their ability to get their eligibility, they're up 19% because we've done a lot of second dose clinics or second dose vaccinations for that group because it's been about the 21, 28 days roughly since they were eligible. 50 to 64, you've seen the big increase there, 42%, up 15% in a week is pretty good. For that age group. And so they're not going to be a lot of those with the second doses because their eligibility is more recent. With an increase of 8% from 30 to 49. So we're making headway in that gains on that each week. We also post this to the website every Thursday as well. So that's where we are with vaccinations. We keep going. I think, starting in 2 weeks, it's going to be a little difficult to get a shot because it's going to be a lot of eligibility opening up, and we're just going to keep working on it. And so you just keep your options open if you're looking. Learn their website, learn the ways to register, and when the time comes, jump on one. As far as cases, it's not been a good week. Past week, as you can see, our total case count is 1,416. We're in the yellow. We've gone up 1.5% in positivity. You can see we had our biggest 1 week jump. We had about 7 weeks of 25 to 35 cases per week. We spiked up to 93. This week, about halfway through, I take this number Thursday afternoon. We're about at 35, so we're slightly less than what that 90 was. That 93 was. We're somewhere around that 70 range if we end up being similar to what we were the rest of the week. We're about also 55 probable cases since the end of March, since March 22nd. So a lot of people. So we've had quite a few cases, and it's true of the entire Cape. To talk about how vaccines are working, the average age of all cases in Falmouth as of last Friday was 48.9. The average age over the last 2 weeks, with the 22nd to the 2nd, 34.4. So that tells you that the cases are with a younger group, primarily because we vaccinated. Right, so that group is less likely to get it with vaccinations. So the age, it's definitely hitting younger over the last couple of weeks. So that's where we are with cases. The county as well, I want to show you this chart on the right. Is the more recent chart. On the left is the older chart. I just put a line at 30 cases per 100,000. We can see that we had 2 towns, Barnstable and Yarmouth, over that line, with Mashpee and Sandwich Road hugging the line. Move over 1 week, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 towns on the Cape exceeding that number. So it's Mid-Cape had a high rate of cases over the last few weeks, and it's worked its way out to Falmouth and to most other towns on the Cape. So everybody needs to know that. Total cases, you can see I put the red arrow there. You can just see the cases increasing week by week. And so we've had our fair share of cases. And part of this has got to do with variants. And I'll talk a little bit about variants. I just got this data this afternoon, just about an hour or two ago. The 2 variants, both the P1 and the B117, have both been detected in Barnstable County. P1 more appears to be, appears to be more prevalent in Barnstable County than any other county in the state, and Massachusetts leads the country in case count. So P1 is a big deal right now for us in Barnstable County. They do both spread more easily. The vaccines are still effective, but we're still going to have to go on with the mitigation measures. What I'm seeing with cases is that in households, you do see more people within a household getting it because it's definitely more easily spread. So your ability to sort of keep it amongst one family member is a little bit more difficult. You can see on the right, Barnstable County had 30. Now, this is a surveillance, so it's not every single COVID test goes for checking which variant. You see that so they're checking. I don't know exactly what the surveillance is. I've asked the state to give me what they do for a metric on it, but of the samples that they took, they found B117 35 out of the 974 grand total. P1, you see out of 82 that they've found, 63 have been in Barnstable County. So we're the hot spot for the P1 variant. In Falmouth, they've found both P1 and B117, one of each. They're not testing every test, so we just need to know. The main thing to know here is that both variants are here on the Cape, and both variants have been found here in Falmouth. So that's what I had to say about. So again, of course, what we need to do is just to keep going on with the mitigations, the massive social distancing, all the same stuff we've done. Keep vaccinating, getting the vaccine out as quick as we receive it, which we're doing. And we just keep on trying to get the vaccinations done as not give these variants a chance to keep on going. And the last thing I want to talk about is beach guidance came out, and which I was surprised to see. It's very similar to last year's guidance. It's groups should be minimum 12 feet apart between groupings, less than 15 people in a group. Parking lots enter. This is right from the guidance. It says parking lots, people entering the beach or other factors should be managed if necessary to limit beach capacity to accommodate adequate social distancing. We know how difficult that is on 4th of July in the Heights, or at any weekend over that's nice over at Old Silver and our other beaches. Beach goes is supposed to maintain 6 feet with 12 feet between the blankets, face coverings. Anybody out gatherings like you talked about previously, wedding gatherings and different gatherings that are being authorized to be in the beaches should follow the gatherings order. And beach visitors should, obviously have bathroom lines and social distancing and stuff like that in our common areas such as restrooms. So I'll open it up to questions. I'll unshare the screen.
Thanks, Scott. Any questions for Scott? Go ahead, Sam.
Yes, Scott, the surge that just occurred in Barnstable and Yarmouth, any sense of how that transmission is taking place?
You mean, well, at that many cases, any which way but loose. I mean, it's much more spreadable, so your likelihood of getting it in a more casual contact that you would normally not get it from would be a higher risk with the ability to spread that much better. I think their cases, I think in Barcelona alone, were well into the 500s for that 2-week span. So it's a couple hundred cases. There's a lot of spread going on. It would be gatherings, work. Our contact tracing is founded, at workplaces, medical facility, every which way you could find it. Once you get cases like this, it's common. This is not the first time we've seen a lot of cases, and it could be just about anywhere. So.
Well, I know that I think that the county looked at where they were spreading before these variants came in, and it was primarily in households, but somebody had to bring it into the household, and I didn't know whether there was a pattern.
Nothing in particular. We've seen it in all the different avenues. We've seen it in the past. It just seems like it just does a better job going amongst households. So let's say a household of 5 people, you might see it go through 2. You're seeing it go through 3.5. Okay. So, it's just because it's harder to manage inside of a household, and it's happening amongst the group of, the younger kids and younger adults that generally don't do quite as well as maybe somebody, that's more seasoned. So it is what it is. And both variants are both much more, almost the whole factor twice as much spreadable.
Doug Brown?
It's very interesting that it's now starting to spread in households. I had just always assumed that if one person in the house got it, everyone was going to get it. I guess that's not the case.
It really depends on how you live. I mean, if you're in a small 2-bedroom house and you all share one bathroom and you have 5 people living there, it's a lot harder than if you live on separate floors. If you've got 3 or 4 bathrooms, it makes all the difference in the world, right? So if you can have a separate bathroom and not share common spaces, and you've got a large enough house, it's going to be easier for you than if 5 25-year-olds just left their nest and all rented together, and one got it, the rest of them won't get it. That's just sort of the pattern, if it makes sense, right? So it's households, but they're all getting it from any which way, but from all over.
Right. Thanks.
Julian.
Yes. Thanks, Madam Chair. In the interest of courtesy to Scott, during his COVID report, he gave us we had sort of a long-awaited update on beaches from the governor's office. And by contrast, you'll recall the governor a year ago had reduced the capacity at state parking facilities at state beaches by 50%. That is not the case this year, based upon what's been released. And although we'll be talking further about the beaches a couple items down on the agenda, I wanted to give Scott the chance to make that updated comment on the beach guidelines from the state. Not necessarily need to stick with us for the discussion later in the evening, but I did want to take the opportunity to emphasize that we are not anticipating a cutback in the beach parking spaces at our municipal beach parking lots, unlike last year. So we anticipate being able to utilize them as they were designed, to the significant benefit of our residents and their beach parking stickers. However, as per usual, as we'll talk about later, we will have the usual signage up. Scott's already commented on that, the social distancing remains in place and things of that nature. But we rely on individuals to self-police. In other words, if the beach looks a little bit crowded, that's one of the blessings we have with a great number of beaches in Falmouth, that individuals may wish to go to a beach which is a little less crowded, for instance, but no need based on the state guidelines to cut back on the municipal beach parking lots, which I think will be welcome news to our residents who buy beach parking stickers.
Yeah, if I could add while we go on that train of thought, when I say any which way, it's indoor. It's really not an outdoor. It's much safer. I'd much rather have people on the beaches than I'd rather have them crammed into buildings. So, I just make sure I emphasize that I find outside to be many fold safer. We're not contact tracing to the bike path. We're not saying we're not contact tracing and finding it. We're contact tracing and finding it, inside, in the indoors.
Yeah, great clarification. Doug Jones.
Scott, can you clarify what the governor is saying about the 6 feet and the 12 feet on the beach?
Well, 12
feet between groups. But if you're in a group with your family coming from your house, do you need to worry about social distancing within your own group?
No. No, but it's, no. You would be looking, let's say if you and I met at the beach, then we would want to stay 6 feet apart.
Great. So really that piece is not changed from last year.
Yeah. So we're on our second year talking about guidance on stuff. I hope we don't have to do this a third year.
Yes. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I know that the lifeguards kind of keep a count of how many people are on the beach at any given time. Is there any way that we can kind of consolidate that information and post it on our website so people kind of know where the beaches are a little less congested?
Peter?
So Sam is recalling correctly that we asked the lifeguards to write down some qualitative information about how crowded the beaches are, and we certainly we could post that if that's helpful. I just didn't want folks to think that we have an actual count of how many people are at the beaches, and it's a weekly tabulation that we've been doing. So I don't know if it's timely enough, and it's a very sort of manual process where you don't have it automated so that it's easily shared quickly.
And Maggie says it's the parking attendants that are doing it, not the lifeguards.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maggie.
And then uploaded to the town server weekly. So one thing I saw, and we can talk about this with beaches, but just I was in another municipality last year, and I saw that they would put these sort of little markers on the beach that kind of marked the 6 foot. I mean, it was clearly a labor intensive undertaking, but I found that it was very interesting that people were fairly compliant. So you had your little disc, and that's where you kind of set up. And then the next one was the 12 feet away. And so, it is a lot of work, but it seemed to kind of address some of the concerns I know we still had last year where there were concerns that people and then you're putting the lifeguard in the position of trying to make people move after they've already kind of set up camp. And that's tough.
I don't think we need to go to that. And again, as Scott said, if you're outside on the beach with the wind blowing, we just don't have the worry that we need to go to that extent.
Can I add?
Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
We're 44% vaccinated about 8 weeks into the vaccine. We went February 1st, we went to phase 2. It took us about 8 weeks, and we've done a pretty good job. Okay. So 8 weeks from now, we're still not into beach season. We should be somewhere well above where we think we're going to be. I don't even want to give you a number, honestly. But let's we're going to be in good shape vaccination wise, and as long as the variants don't do anything weird and things work out, I mean, we're in a different point than we are, the first week of April talking about beaches. So we'll have to be flexible. I wouldn't want to put a lot of time and effort into something that's subject to change in a moment's notice.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. Or then it may not be necessary because things are looking different. Any other questions for Scott? Scott, as always, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay, next we're going to set June special town meeting dates and approve the articles that will be on that warrant. So folks recall, we were really responding to a concern we heard from a number of town meeting members and members of the public who were pointing out that a virtual meeting, albeit, really wonderful that we were able to do that last time around, isn't the most conducive to kind of robust public discourse and debate. And we had before us for this particular warrant quite a few, number one, a very long warrant, and number two, quite a few articles, particularly some petitioners' articles that we know are going to generate what we hope is some really healthy debate. And we wanted to be able to foster that the best that we can. So through a series of discussions, we talked about the possibility of having a second, so our regular town meeting that's going to take place, and having another town meeting that we hold in June, and are able to put some of these articles that aren't time sensitive necessarily and really are going to generate some discussion, put those articles onto that warrant in order to hold it, at a venue like the high school, hopefully outside if possible, inside if necessary due to weather, so that more folks can attend, speak on the things they want to speak on, and be heard. And so that is where we are now. And Peter, do you want to just kind of walk through what we would like to have the board do tonight if they're so inclined?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So to begin with, we had a number of conversations with the parties involved to select a date. And moderator David Vieira really emphasized that he would like to have the flexibility to be indoors or outdoors and to make that decision much closer to the date than we are now. And that led to holding off the meeting until after school is out of session. The school is using the gymnasium for a number of purposes at this point, and they will be going forward for both auxiliary classrooms and I believe perhaps for cafeteria as well. So that takes us to a date after June 22nd, and then in looking more closely at the Mondays and the weekends, we really did not have availability of the key people and the key facilities until Monday the 28th. So the proposal before you is to post the meeting for the high school campus without a specific exact location within the campus, so that determination could be made based on what's going on with COVID and what's going on with the weather.
If we're outside, is there a time we have to end by?
So that's an interesting question, Doug. We have lights, so we could potentially go late. It is mosquito season, so being out late under the lights is probably not ideal. But we didn't put a firm number on it. I don't know that we have an exact cutoff. That's probably something we want to talk about some more.
Yep.
Because if we're worried about mosquitoes, that's about 8:30 would be the latest, or 8 o'clock would. So we're only talking about a 2-hour town meeting if we start at 6 o'clock outside.
And why do we have to start at 6? Could it be a little earlier?
Well, I think it always runs into the issue of if people work still and they work till 5, are we, sort of, denying them the opportunity to equally participate as a town meeting member?
Okay.
So I think 6 o'clock was kind of the earliest on a weekday.
We'll have to bring lots of bug spray.
Yeah. Sam?
Yeah, I know you have a proposed set of articles that would be carried over until June. But if some of these actually pass under the blanket, would they then be dropped off of this list? Is this a draft list?
Go ahead, Peter.
So what we are proposing to do is to close the warrant and adopt the warrant tonight. Or actually, I should say the warrant's already closed. You would be voting the warrant tonight. And the reason for that is so that there is no question in the minds of any of the advocates for any of these articles, but particularly the petitioners, the petition articles, that they have a final warrant that's been posted and published before we get to April 12th. So they don't have any reason to hold their article and cause debate and cause our whole plan for a one-night remote meeting without getting into the controversial articles that are not as time sensitive on April 12th.
But the answer, I guess, could, and we talked about this, Julian and Peter, that something could pass on the blanket, and then it would be passed on the blanket, and it would not be revisited in the June meeting. Correct?
Correct.
So it will be on the warrant, and the moderator will make a blanket motion to take no action on those articles that have already been approved, so that it's very clear that the vote from April approving the article stands and it's not revisited in June.
Someone could try.
Yes.
Correct.
So really the goal of, doing this tonight is exactly as Peter says. So petitioners don't think there's like any kind of kicking the can or bait and switch. I mean, we're kicking the can slightly, but we're doing it for a good reason, we believe, which is to allow folks to really do their presentations, advocate one way or the other, and be able to do that in person and not have anyone, who's not a Zoom aficionado, not comfortable with it, doesn't have good internet, they don't feel shut out from the process. It took a lot of heavy lifting from town staff to make sure that our 200 plus town meeting members could, regardless of where they were living in town, could participate, because we all know there are places where that internet connectivity is not, real strong. So imagine trying to then have the public and petitioners and everybody else trying to do that for them as well.
Madam Chair, if I could just make one other note, and that is there are some articles that will be automatic holds by the chair, and that speaks to, again, the whole reason that we created these two different warrants. Part of it was to allow for a robust discussion on some of the controversial articles. So, for example, the two petition solar articles, we know that town meeting wants to debate those, so those are not going to be allowed to be approved on the blanket vote. And that's as an example. Columbus Day petition article is another one.
Yep. Sam?
Yeah, I had a call on the Gulf Fuller Field Improvement Project, and concerned that if town meeting didn't approve that article, that it would be very difficult for them to start the procurement process with contractors in time to get work done this year, and which basically would kind of make sure that it didn't happen until the following year. And so I'm just concerned that maybe if somebody holds an article like that for some trivial question, and therefore basically puts the town behind because material costs have just been going up like crazy. Hopefully they'll start to simmer down, and it just means that our citizens' contributions to the CPA funds will not go as far.
Yep. Julian and then Nancy.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, I owe Select Board Member Patterson a follow-up. We're just verifying with town engineer Jim McLaughlin on that particular project, but it looks like the full anticipation with a late June adoption is that construction on the project would be started right after Labor Day. So we anticipate that, barring some disaster in the weather, either this fall or next spring, that CPA project for the Commodores should be able to be wrapped up. But I owe you a further, as well as Mark, some further information on that. Jim McLaughlin has been working on that diligently behind the scenes in cooperation with the Commodores.
Thank you.
Nancy.
I was just thinking about nights, mosquitoes, indoors, outdoors. I think it's Plymouth that does their town meetings on Saturdays. Have we ever thought about that? I mean, wouldn't that be a way to accommodate
yeah, we did look at,
and other towns do it.
Yeah, we did look at Saturdays. The problem in this particular scenario is the one Saturday, stop me if I'm wrong, Peter, but the one Saturday, which would be like that, the 26th was a day that I don't think our town moderator was available. So I think, and then we then get, the next one we're pushing into July. So there's only one Saturday available between the window of the school closing and, our idea of a July kind of cutoff. And that's one Saturday the moderator's not available. But it's a good point. We really had actually thought that might be kind of a perfect fix, to really just give us whatever time we needed and not push up against dusk and mosquitoes, et cetera.
Do we have the field and gym for the next night if we have to go 2 nights?
Yes, we do. Any other thoughts or questions from the board?
I would expect we will be going 2 nights.
I agree, especially if we're cutting off at 8. If it's 6 to 8, I don't think we're going to get all of these done in the 2-hour span.
Not if they weren't passing the blanket to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. So, Peter, from us tonight, we need to vote.
I would vote that we move the town meeting. We call a special town meeting for June 28th at 6 p.m. at the Falmouth High School campus.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
If, just to clarify the motion, if we could have that motion reference the specific articles as numbered in the warrant.
I guess I was going to do that as a separate article, but
that works as long as we have both of those things voted. Thank you.
I think let's do the date first, and then we'll note what the warrant will contain. So I have a motion for the 28th, 6 p.m. at the Falmouth High School complex. I have a second from Nancy Taylor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call. Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
All right, Brown, aye.
Okay, Jones.
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay, next.
I would move that we add articles 1 through 24 as listed on our packet labeled April 2020 Annual Town Meeting Index, but I think intended to be the June 2021 Special Town Meeting.
Second.
Correct. Okay. I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call. Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
Jones.
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. Does that seem specific enough for you, Peter? Great. Thanks to everyone for all the work. Mr. Suso, did you have something you want to add?
I was just going to add that following that index is a full listing of all articles 1 through 24 with the correct header, special town meeting, the date and the starting time. So that'll be the operative warrant, along with the one sheet of paper which you've already voted to approve, and all members of the board will be signing.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for putting their heads together to try and get this done. We really appreciate the schools working with us as well. Okay, next we are moving on. We have our report, Cape Cod Commission, Christy Senatori. I see her coming on. Welcome. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As I know many of you, but for those of you I don't know, I'm Christy Senatori. I'm the Executive Director at the Cape Cod Commission. And I typically visit the boards of selectmen from time to time. I started reaching out to all 14 boards of selectmen and the Barnstable Town Council last year in the early part of January or so, and intended to resume that kind of tour of these boards and in person, and here we are over a year later. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I just wanted to provide a few highlights of some of the work that we have done over the course of the past year, and then highlight also some of our current priorities and current initiatives. And please feel free to stop me along the way. I'm happy to take any questions, and I know you've got a lengthy agenda, so I'll be brief. I did also forward our 2020 year in review publication, so hopefully you had a chance to take a look at that. So I won't go through that in any detail, but certainly that does provide a somewhat of an overview of some of the work that we did in 2020. But a few things I just wanted to highlight were some of our work around water quality and and primarily around the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund, and identifying these additional resources for the communities to use to fund these significant wastewater projects. And that fund to date, from about July of 2019 through February of 2021, has just over $20 million in it. And so over the course of the next couple of months, and hopefully even sooner than that, if we get the intended use plan finalized through DEP, we'll be able to distribute those funds and actually see those funds going into the communities. And I know that you are listed on the 2021 IUP, and we look forward to seeing some of these dollars come to our community. So I did just want to thank Peter Johnson-Staub for his work on that committee. It's been a lot of work to get the regulations up and running, and really understand how this is going to work as 15 communities come together around wastewater. And so a lot of our work over the last year, as everyone, has really been in response to the COVID pandemic. And a few of our initiatives have really been more focused around data and information. And if you haven't visited our Data Cape Cod website, it's datacapecod.com. And it does provide a series of data dashboards ranging from demographic information to housing information. And it also includes information about our surveys that we conducted with the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, looking at local business impacts. And so we had a series of 3 surveys. All that data and information is contained within that Data Cape Cod website. We intend to continue to update that, and likely will become more of a data hub for other types of data and information as well. One thing that we did monitor throughout the course of the pandemic was traffic impacts, and that tends to be one of the more widely used data dashboard. People are very interested in seeing the numbers of bridge crossings, and especially at those key weekends. And we'll continue to monitor that and have that available information on that site. And so one of the other things I wanted to highlight that we worked on in 2020 and is continuing into this year is the development of our first ever climate action plan for the region. And I know some of you are more familiar than others, but this was really an initiative that we started at the Commission back in 2019, but really started in earnest back over the summer with the implementation of our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And so within the next few weeks, we should be releasing for public comment our draft climate action plan. So we look forward to sharing that with the region. It really does provide a comprehensive look at strategies and actions that not only individuals, but communities and certainly municipalities and the regional level can take to really address our greenhouse gas emissions and address one of our biggest challenges, which of course is climate change. So in terms of climate and coastal resiliency, this was really building off of a lot of our resiliency planning, and now we're really able to take a look not only at the adaptation side, but the mitigation side. One of our economic development initiatives was also looking at a study of the harbors. And so we're pleased that Falmouth Inner Harbor was one of the 6 harbors that we did study, looking at those economic impacts. And so that's also something available on our website. And certainly we appreciated the town participating in that and providing us some valuable information that we can now use across the region as well. So some of our priority projects for 2021, of course, are completing this climate action plan and then putting that into implementation. But we're also looking more closely at some of the COVID-19 pandemic impacts to the region, and specifically looking at impacts to our housing market. And we will be conducting a survey of second homeowners, and it's more important now than ever probably to really get an understanding of who's here, who's in the region. The demographic profile has been changing, and we can tell that there are more people here, even anecdotally. And so really trying to get a quantification of the number of residents that are staying longer in their second homes. We also saw certainly that there were more home purchases, and those values were increasing. And so we'll be also at the same time looking at conducting a survey of new homeowners. So we'll get a better sense of those that purchased a home in 2020, what their long-term plans are, if that's predictable for the use of those properties. This not only helps with regional planning in terms of looking at infrastructure dollars and in terms of looking at our land use patterns, but will hopefully also help in terms of looking at impacts to our local schools as well as our healthcare system. So kind of circling back to water quality, we've spent a significant amount of time, of course, over the last several years on marine water quality, looking at our estuaries and embayments. And it's probably equally important to also take a look at our 1,000 ponds that we have in the region and the water quality of our ponds. And so we have just initiated an update to our lakes and ponds atlas for the region, which really will be the background data and information collection to have a more comprehensive freshwater initiative, which is likely will take some form of a 208 plan for freshwater for ponds. So that's something that we look forward to working with the 15 communities on in the course of the next several months and into the next several years. And so, these are some of kind of the highlights of some of the work that we're doing. It's not comprehensive, but I did just want to pause to see if anybody has any questions. We did not have an opportunity to host our One Cape Summit last year. We do hope to do that this year. We're looking at the fall in hopes that it could be potentially in person, but of course we'll have a virtual components and potentially a virtual setting if that's necessary. So I hope that we will have a session dedicated to just selectmen and counselors across the region. So we hope that you'll participate in that as well. But before I pause for questions, I'm not sure if Charlie McCaffrey was able to join this evening, but he has been a longtime member of the Cape Cod Commission. I do understand that he is stepping down from that role, but I did just want to thank him for his dedication and his service on the board, and certainly we would welcome participation from another member from the town at your convenience, and happy to have those discussions and dialogue. So I'll pause. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback at your discretion. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Christy? Sam and then Doug Brown.
Christy, you may have heard that there's an advocacy group here in Falmouth that's trying to put fiber optic to the home and business because we're just not being adequately served with the two providers of broadband. And we've run into it particularly in connectivity with students trying to, work remotely for the school program. So it's hit us in a number of ways. I think almost all of us in select board meetings have found ourselves, frozen and not being able to participate fully in the deliberation. Has the Cape Cod Commission put that on their radar screen as an issue that's really part and parcel of the economic development capacity of the Cape?
So through the chair, absolutely. That's it's a great question, and it is something that we do have on our radar, and we are watching very closely at what's going on in the town, and certainly that progress, and we're looking for some appropriate regional opportunities to expand that discussion and those efforts. And there is potential funding opportunities and resources too that could be identified that could potentially make that more of a real opportunity for the region. And certainly we'll be looking to hopefully capitalize on some of those as they become available. There was money in the IT bond bill just last year to do a comprehensive study of some of these opportunities, and we're hopeful that some of the infrastructure funding that may be trickling our way is also another place where we may be able to approach the towns and the state and other entities about really making that a reality here in the region. It's certainly something that's been a focus of ours in the course of the past several years. It's in every economic development strategy that we put forward, and it would be really, it's crucial. It's really a critical time for the Cape to be a leader in the broadband industry and field.
Great, thank you. Doug Brown, you had a question or comment?
Yes, Christy, I'm very excited about your turning your attention to the freshwaters and the issues that may be affecting them. One of the groups I belong to, Falmouth Water Stewards, used to be called FACES, Falmouth Area Associations Concerned with Estuaries. And we realized several years ago that we had sort of accomplished our mission with regard to the estuaries and turned our attention to the freshwaters. And some of our pond watchers are now testing the freshwaters, and we're finding a lot of cyanobacteria in some of the ponds, especially deep pond where we didn't really expect it. We thought that would be more of a shallow pond type of phenomenon. And we're very concerned that it's actually a public health safety issue. And I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit, how do you plan to coordinate? Will you be coordinating volunteer groups or doing a new targeted effort of monitoring? Could you just tell me how that might work?
Sure. So we're in the initial phases right now of updating the ponds and lakes atlas so that we have a baseline of information that we can then kind of put together a strategy for kind of what will likely be a ponds initiative or a 208 plan for ponds. And it will likely include a series of stakeholder kind of identification. We know that there are a lot of pond groups already that exist across the 15 municipalities. There is already a lot of pond monitoring and data collection, but I'm not sure that it all exists in one place. So we want to make sure that that is something that we can capture comprehensively, and then really set up a series of plans and programs in terms of where the support for monitoring can come into play. And we want to make sure that what's being captured for data is consistent across the board. And so I think that there are a variety of different nutrient issues, as well as the issues that you're mentioning too with the cyanobacteria and others. And so getting a good handle on what some of these contaminants are that we're seeing that are impacting our freshwater ponds is critical. And so I think likely what you'll see, similar to the 208 plan, is a series of strategies or recommendations for potentially improving water quality in the freshwater ponds. And so I think we'll have no problem attracting stakeholders. I think there are a lot of pond groups and coalitions that are really engaged, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a lot of new and innovative ideas too, and then that will potentially even attract some funding resources to the Cape to address some of these issues. So it's still in the early stages of putting scope of work together and kind of looking for some of those larger dollar resources to put together a program like this. But we wanted to get going and at least get that initial data collection component underway. And so that's what we're doing over the next several months or so as we kind of prepare to do the larger ponds initiative. So I look forward to working with you on that and others that you may see as appropriate within the town of Falmouth.
That's great news, because that's really exactly what's needed. I find that our water stewards group, it's hit or miss whether or not we can find another group that's collaborating, in a similar way. So it'll be great to have a database. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, go right ahead, Christy.
No, I'm all set. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Definitely looking forward to One Cape. However, whatever the iteration is, it's always a really great event and just kind of brings together, so many, just experts in the fields that we all care about, and kind of, I don't know, really shows the connectivity and all the issues that all the communities are struggling with, very similar challenges. So hopefully it will be able to take place this year.
We're going to try.
Yeah, I know 2 years ago, we were connected with Union Station on their redevelopment work through Rhode Island and into Massachusetts. And that's turned out to be a very valuable resource as we're looking at Davis Straits. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Great. We have report on building permits. So, Nancy, do you just want to kind of,
Yes.
Yeah, yep,
Sure.
Go right ahead.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I did ask both the town manager and the chair of the Board of Selectmen to put a question on about building permits. And the reason I asked for this was because it actually started last summer when I had been hearing concerns about building permits, the processing of building permits, the dates that they're filed and the dates that they're actually issued appeared to be a problem. So I did send an email to the town manager just asking if we could have a report. And I wanted to thank Rod. I did get the report. I think the whole committee received the report, and it has some really good information on it. I think the piece that is still a question in my mind is, and I did put it in my email, is a written report of outstanding building permits and the dates they were filed. And so I think that's the part that keeps coming to me, that they filed them in January, it's April, they haven't heard. So I was looking for a little bit more detailed information around dates, but I thought your report was well done and had to be turned around in a short period of time. So I thank you for that.
Great. Rod, did you just want to kind of comment, maybe summarize for the public kind of what you put in your report, just so folks have that, information?
Yeah, sure. I don't know, Nancy, that I can retrieve that information, what date a permit came in and for how long it was there. I think we would have to do that individually. We're very limited on what we can retrieve from Unicity. I can tell you, though, that it's not uncommon for us to have permits. Let's say they were received on January 1st. It's not uncommon for me to have permits for 6 months, 7 months. There are some there that have been there for a year. And we typically try to get to those permits once they come in within a week or two, sometimes 3, depending on the volume, depending on our staff. But we will generally do a review of the application. If there's information that's incorrect or missing, we contact the applicant either by phone or email. And sometimes we wait months for the information. And if we wait too long, we'll usually reach out to them and remind them that we're still waiting. And we may continue to wait. We may get the information after that. But it's not uncommon for us to wait several weeks or months for information. So if you were to look at my report right now, I think you'll see that we have approximately 200 applications in our office right now in the review room. There's probably close to 90 of them awaiting information. That could be engineering, that could be a site plan, it could be workman's compensation, it could be waiting on conservation, it could be waiting on for a special permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals. There's a whole host of reasons why an application might sit in my office for several weeks, several months even. So it's not uncommon for things to sit for quite some time.
Megan, you're muted.
Go ahead, Sam, and then Doug and Julian, did you have your hand up as well?
Yeah, I can comment now or later.
Why don't you comment and then Sam and then Doug?
Yeah, I was just going to mention if the board refers to some of the key points that Rod had generated and we transmitted earlier this afternoon. We can certainly supplement this with some additional information, but if I might, just in a nutshell, during the past COVID 12 months of the pandemic, the town has experienced an increase of 34% in new residential permits. So I think the perception and perhaps the experience in many other areas of the Commonwealth is that the activity may be down. That's certainly not the case in Falmouth, and we certainly have not had an increase of 34% in staffing. So we have fixed staffing, which we're thankful to have. We have a number of qualified individuals, but those permits are up 34% for new residential, which tend to be the more complex category. And continuing the, as Rod noted, approximately 200 open residential building permits currently. But he mentioned about 91 of those are on hold due to incomplete information. That's nearly 46% of all the open permits cannot be acted upon because the information is incomplete or the building department is awaiting some other action. And unfortunately, as Rod has noted, sometimes that can go on for months. And ideally, we can track down individual permit requests and give specifics for those, but it's a little more difficult to beyond the data, this data that has been shared, to characterize them generally. The other thing that I want to note in the report is that the building department, like so many other departments, even with an increase of 34% in new residential permits, they have been beset with challenges due to the pandemic. For instance, in the past week, 2 out of the 3 administrative aides in building were not available for health-related reasons during that week. So the challenges in staffing continue. Building has never slowed down. They've never been closed at any time during the pandemic. But again, there's been an increase of 34% in new residential permits alone. So it's been there's really been an extraordinary level of activity in the town of Falmouth, which is a positive development, but certainly has had some challenges for staff, which we're happy to talk about further.
So let me just go Sam, Doug, and then to you, Nancy, if that's okay. I just want to try and keep the order. Go ahead, Sam Patterson.
Yeah, I just want to know, how do you manage that backlog of applications? I mean, you have over 100 that you said, basically don't require additional information, but how do you stay on top of all of them and expedite them to the best that you can? I mean, delays for any of these businesses represents money, especially when materials costs are going up at such a high rate. How do you manage that backlog?
So we have approximately 100 applications right now that we have not looked at. They may have just been filed or submitted in the last week or 2 or 2.5 weeks. So we have a queue, and it's impossible for us not to have a queue. We have such a great number of applications coming in on a daily basis. And that number that I gave you, those are substantial building permits. Those are for new homes, for additions, commercial buildings, commercial alterations. There's many, many more that we have that come in that are smaller type permits, roofing permits, insulation, siding, windows. None of those I've even included in the numbers. That doesn't include sheet metal and plumbing and electrical and HVAC. Those permits that are in my office are permits that require substantial review. We have in my office, my review room, I invite anybody on the board to come in and see what we do on a daily basis. In my office, we have engineering from Gifford Street come down and review the applications. We have Scott McGann from Board of Health come in and review the applications. We have Concom come in, review the applications. We have a building inspector review the applications. We have zoning review the applications. So each application has a great number of folks that look at the application. They go to tax collectors, they go to assessors. So when you submit a building permit application for a substantial project, a new home, etc., when it comes into my office, we stamp it. From there, it typically goes up to the tax collector and the assessors. It's up there for 1 to 3 days. It comes back to the building department, and it goes through a process. It gets in the queue, goes through a process, and each one of those individuals that I had just mentioned reviews the application. So it is time consuming, but right now, everything we do is by hard copy. So hopefully, once we have our online permitting, I know that the town has been working extremely hard to get something like that initiated, and hopefully in the near future we'll have that. And I think that will make a big difference. But right now, we are just so busy. There is so much work in Falmouth. Just find a street in Falmouth and drive down that street, and there's something substantial going on, whether it's raising a home and building a new one, or building a new one, or it's a substantial improvement to a home. There's just so much work right now. There's not a day that goes by in my office where I don't have a property owner come into my office and ask if I can recommend a contractor, a designer, a plumber, an electrician, a land surveyor. So even the property owners in Falmouth are expanding or building. It's just a very busy community. I'm not making excuses. That's just the way it is.
Well, I see what's going on in my street, so I understand what you're saying.
It's very busy.
So, Rod, you kind of touched on my question was, do you think that the new online permitting is going to expedite these more quickly? And it sounds like you think it will.
I do, Doug. I poll contractors all the time. I had a conversation today with one of the bigger contractors, general contractors in Falmouth today. And I asked that person who does a lot of work on Cape Cod from Provincetown up. And the software that we have chosen, which is Permitize, is one that he and others find to be very user-friendly. And I think it will make a huge difference. That example I just gave you of folks having to come to my office to look at hard copies of documentation, that will all end where they can review the application from their desk. So I think it will be extremely beneficial, and I think it will make a big difference in the time.
It'll probably make it easier to track too, because you can just do a search for it and it comes up.
Yeah, and we're all committed to the responsibility of what we were supposed to be doing. And my staff, they work diligently, and we really are doing the best we can. I know that there are complaints about the time that it takes to get permits issued, but I don't know what the answer is right now. We're all doing the best we can.
Nancy?
When was the last time the staff in your office was increased? Mr. Sousa, you made a comment about the staffing. When was the last time it was increased, and how was it increased?
Well, we had an administrative position that was added recently, and we also had a vacant building inspector position, which we had some difficulty filling because of the really the nature of the market out there. Many inspectors find that they can do better working in the private sector as opposed to publicly as an inspector, and that's been a challenge for us. But I would say within the past year, we've come up to full complement, and I believe, Rod, that I believe that's been within the past 12 months. Is that your memory as well?
It is, Julian. Just before COVID-19 came upon us, we were fully staffed. Immediately after COVID-19 began, I'm going to say March or April of last year, we went months with no staff. I have 3 permanent full-time clerks. All 3 of them were gone, not for weeks, but for months. I had to find folks to come in and help us. I managed to persuade Suri Boudreau, I'm sure some of you remember Suri, to come and work for us. And Suri was nice enough to come back and help us out for several months while all of my staff was out. That's all of them. So it's been a challenging 13 months. Right now, I have 2 full-time that are out and with no determined time to come back. I'm hoping that it's soon. And we've had building inspectors that have been out for weeks at a time with COVID-related issues. So although we were fully staffed just before COVID-19, there's not been a time since then, or there's been very little time since then, the last 13 months, where we have had everybody in my office.
Can you just tell us, Rod, when do you, I had a little bit of a cutout, so I don't know if you answered this in Doug's question, but when do we anticipate the online permitting fully going into effect?
I think maybe Peter or Julian.
Yeah, maybe Peter. Only, you know, I get it, and I get a lot of resources have been poured into this, but we really have been talking about this for an incredibly long time. Yeah.
On April 12th.
Yeah. Okay.
April 12th, the funding is before town meeting.
Okay.
And I just, I don't want to, we clearly understand the urgency of the project, and that's why we've, you know, we have done the legwork. We have the vendor lined up, and we'll have a contract ready to go as soon as town meeting approves the funds, if they choose to do so. I do want to caution, it is a major IT system migration, installation, and training. So, you know, I believe we're looking at a 6 to 12 month process to get the system up and running.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, I think I know what I hear as you know, a select board member, and I'm sure it must be the same thing Nancy's hearing to have brought this up, but we, you know, we are constantly, it's one of the things we get the most kind of calls about, right? And I get it. There's lots of moving parts. But I think, if we can revisit this and think about if there's any even supplemental staff or something we can do to assist Rod, because to have a backlog of that many substantial projects sitting on his desk, and we know no project flies through. There's always some, challenge, something that happens, something not right with the application or something has to be adjusted. And I just don't know how it's feasible to expect the building department to kind of get through those in a way that is, we know it's not going to be overnight, but even kind of appropriately timely for some of these projects that are going to be, there is a cost to the developer, right? Whether it's an individual homeowner or a big developer, if Rod can't get to it because he's got all of this stuff on his desk and he doesn't have a full, complement of staff there all the time. And this isn't something that's, it's not just building department. Obviously, many departments are struggling with this, but it impacts each department differently. But to hear that workload that he has in front of him, I think it's concerning, because I don't know how he goes through those in a way that's methodical and appropriate, in a way that is also timely for those applicants. So I don't know if we can, we're not going to fix it tonight, but I think that it is something that needs to be revisited, because it's not going to be, as you said, it's 6 to 12 months before the software comes into effect. And we're still dealing with, I don't see the construction doesn't seem to be slowing down. It seems to be pretty robust.
If I could, it doesn't just affect the contractors. Sometimes it's permitting that's put in place prior to closing of a property. Sometimes a developer will want to make sure that what he wants to do with the property can be permitted. So they'll go through the permit process prior to closing. So when that gets held up, it holds up the whole economy of the real estate and everything. So it is an important thing that we need to make sure.
It's just something that we do hear quite a bit about. So maybe we can kind of think and have some follow-up discussions with Rod, Peter, Julian, to kind of think about ways that we can support the work. Rod, this isn't a critique of what you're doing. It's just it's a critique of something's broken within the system of how we're operating. The biggest piece is likely that we are a little bit late to the game with the online permitting. And I think it's showing. I think, I think we got away with it for a while, but I think it's showing a bit here, that it is kind of an antiquated system.
I appreciate that, Megan. And I think, it's sort of a perfect storm right now. The town of Falmouth is in economic bubble. There is so much activity. And then compound that with COVID-19. And again, I'm not making excuses, but it's real. It's real. And Doug made a good point where we have so many properties being transferred in ownership, and quite often they're contingent upon a building permit or some zoning compliance letter. And, sometimes these properties are, the transfer is postponed for a day or a week. And so it's challenging. And we empathize with the contractors and the homeowners, and we do the best we can. And occasionally I'll take things out of queue, but I don't like to do it because it's like standing in line in the bank and nobody wants people to cut in front of them. And so we try to take them in order. The projects that are small, that don't require much of a review, I try to get those out quicker than the other larger ones, but it's a challenging time.
Yeah. So I would suggest that we maybe, Nancy, maybe you and I, or you and Doug, because it's kind of Brown's wheelhouse, but I don't want to put anything on you, Doug, but maybe kind of follow up on this a bit with staff to think about, some possible, even temporary solutions to help support that work and maybe get a handle on it.
I would be happy to. I think that would be really important. And I think I really need to understand the different layers of the problem, and the fact that it is one of the biggest concerns, at least that I keep getting. I would ask the town manager also to get involved in looking at the problem and trying to help us come up with solutions.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
I think it's okay to for the report and to talk about all the sort of roadblocks in our way, but we need to start looking at it a little bit differently. And I think we need to start getting things done in a more timely fashion.
I'd be happy to help if I can. I don't know what I can do, but I'll be happy to join in.
Great. So we'll put it on as a follow-up and, just kind of keep that conversation going. And as Nancy says, asking town manager, assistant town managers to start, thinking about what some possible, supports are for this particular department, because it is a little bit of a perfect storm, as Rod is pointing out. But, I think as Nancy's saying, all the people that are on the screen right now, we're kind of charged with helping to navigate those perfect storms in a way that, gets us, through, the best possible way. So if we can think of other ways to address what we're doing and improve it, maybe put our heads together and do that. So great. Rod, thank you that was really helpful to kind of get that insight. And we will talk to you again soon. So thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to have an update on beaches. I think that Maggie Clayton is going to join us. I know she was here. She is. Hey, Maggie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, I know it's late, although it feels much later than 9:10 for some reason. It feels like it's midnight, but can you gave us a great, we got a kind of a great visual, like educational kind of stuff you guys were sending out. Will you kind of just give us a summary of where we are at, and then we can jump off for any discussion?
Sure. So since the last time I appeared before the board, the Beach Committee had made a couple of suggestions. So the colorful informational piece, which is the last 2 pages of the section in the packet, are meant to be a 5x7 card that can be mailed out with beach parking permit stickers and handed out as for daily ticket purchasers at our 4 pay lots and for distribution at the L&T Mitchell Bathhouse. Just the committee felt that outreach and education in terms of signage, we don't want to disrupt the vista more. And there is signage on the parking attendant booths and on the backs of lifeguard chairs, but we have large swaths of beach where the rules and regulations might not be visible to someone who is not a regular visitor. So that was one initiative of the committee. Also, back to the top of the packet, I tried to divide up what we always do, what we're currently doing that's special or notable or specific to 2021. So we've already, in the past, I would say since I was last here, 4 events have happened. We replaced the Department of Public Works, Highway Division, and Conservation worked together to replace a fence at Megansett and remove a fence at Old Silver at the bottom of what we call the chute of the paved public lot. Myself and a couple of staff members planted beach grass to try and reinforce a dune that was created from that fence removal at Old Silver a couple of weeks ago. And Mr. Brown reported to the committee at their March meeting, and I spoke with Mr. Grady that sand on the road by Chappaquoit Beach was removed. and posts were placed with reflectors to help better maintain the roadway. So those are have already been completed, and there's 2 more larger projects that we will be working on before season opening, which soft opening is considered Memorial Day weekend, which starts Saturday, May 29th this year, and our full season opening, again, to coincide with school's release in later June. So, and then the other item would be the non-resident beach parking passes. Yeah, those were the main items.
Any questions for Maggie? I had one quick question. Well, let me just ask, does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have one. It's not really on this report, but we had another comment, another request that we consider the Mill Road parking lot for resident only. And I know you probably haven't had time to really give that much thought, but can you remind me what the thinking was? We talked about it last year. There were some other residents that had the same question, and I don't remember what the reason was why we couldn't do it at the time. Could you remind me of what the constraints are there?
So I can tell you that when it was brought to my attention last year, I don't recall the reason that we didn't deal with it, except for the fact that on the fee schedule that had been approved for last year, it was approved that the Mill Road extension of Surf Drive was a public paid lot with a set fee. Similarly, it was also voted that way in the fall. So for effective January 1st, 2021. However, the residents who first brought this to Mr. Brown and the board's attention, and it then got brought to the department and has since been brought to the beach committee, and is on the April 21st agenda of the beach committee meeting. There are 37 signatures of people who would like the Mill Road lot to be instated as resident only.
If I recall, Maggie, because we talked about this before, I thought that it brought in like somewhere around like 12,000 or something. Like it generated, one of the issues was it's not an enormous number, but it does generate some more than $10,000 a year for beaches. Does that ring true?
That sounds accurate to me. I would have to run the numbers, and I'm planning on it prior to the beach committee meeting in April to get to our records. I think the other 2 beaches that have 2 lots are Minot and Old Silver, and geographically those lots are right next to each other. So if you have a resident sticker and the resident lot is full at Old Silver, and you park in the lot next to it and you have to walk a few feet, it's not a big difference. And the amenities are the same. There's a bathhouse on each side. There's concessions on each side. They're both paved lots. At Minot, they're both dirt lots. They both have portable toilets. You can see one lot from the other. At Surf Drive, the Mill Road extension of Surf Drive is almost a half a mile removed from the rest of the beach. So the beach is all connected, but in terms of facilities, the Mill Road lot has a portable toilet. The Surf Drive lot has real bathrooms and concessions, whereas the Mill Road lot has a mobile vendor. I understand that I think the issue was exacerbated last year when parking was reduced at 50%, which is why this board voted on July 27th for the Mill Road lot to be the first one we tried opening up to 100%. It is a popular site, not too far from the bike path, and for downtown area as well. So the beach committee is going to discuss it in their meeting in 3 weeks. And I hope for that discussion to then come back to the board.
Great. Thank you. That's helpful to hear. They're going to take it up.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Maggie? Yes, Nancy, you're muted.
Just two things. Thank you for your report, Maggie. That was great. And also the portable toilets that have been placed, I believe there have been 6 of them. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I really appreciate that as well. And my last point was at some time, I believe this board had talked about extending the hours of the beaches. And I'm just wondering where that is, if that's still a concept that's out there.
Sure. So yes, I want to thank Mr. Peter McConerty and the DPW for their work in getting Pena Sanitation to get 6 units out at 5 of our 10 beaches for the month of April. While the contract is out to bid, there are people using those beaches, so that is a nice asset for our residents for sure. In terms of hours, the internally with conversations with human resources in the town manager's office, the decision was made for the parking attendant hours to be shifted to match the lifeguard hours. So that means that the parking lots will be manned an extra hour into the afternoon. So until 4:30 for pay beaches, until 4:45 for sticker only lots. And that is really important for in case the times that we have had lifeguard respond to an emergency between 4 and 4:45, and no one is manning the lot to help fire rescue. That is an across the board change. All 10 sites, same number of hours. It's included in the budget, etc. For extended hours, the department and the beach committee, and I'm sure the select board and the town manager's office have fielded requests for support with crowds at west-facing beaches during sunset hours. And so I am in the process of looking at what the department can do, and in conjunction with the police department to better manage that. And we're looking at something for the Old Silver residence lot in Chappaquoit, but I don't want to share until it's a fully developed idea. But the goal would be to honor resident stickers at those 2 lots closer, later in the evening, closer to sunset.
Thank you. Thank you for that information.
Any other questions for Maggie? Yes, Peter?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that the board took a look at the non-resident sticker options. You may recall that last year we suspended all but the seasonal non-resident sticker options as part of our effort to, free up some more spaces for residents. And the beach committee is recommending we go back to the prior practice. And if that's something that the board wanted to, talk about, I wanted to make sure that you took the opportunity to address it now. We have not, those won't be sold, I believe, until the season actually starts. So if that's something that you wanted to revisit, you could do that. I do have a slide that we could put up. Thomas, would you put that slide up for us? Thank you. So these are the options that we're talking about. Last year, we sold just the seasonal non-resident, but in prior years, we've had a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, and 4 week option, as well as a time sharing interval ownership option. And again, the beach committee is recommending we go back to the old practice. I know there have been, a handful of requests from residents to have more of the beaches dedicated to residents rather than non-residents. So if that's something that the board wanted to think about, this is an opportunity to address that. Of course, on the flip side, certainly the lodging establishments and the our local tourism dependent businesses would advocate to continue these non-resident options.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Doug Brown.
Could you just remind me what is required for a non-resident to acquire one of these stickers?
Sure. I can answer that. So you have to be staying in the town of Falmouth to qualify for a non-resident beach parking sticker. So you can't come from Bourne and have a sticker for the town of Falmouth. The non-resident stickers are all time-based. So a 1-week sticker is good for 7 calendar days, and the dates are written on the sticker and saved into our system electronically. So although the sticker will be affixed to your car, it will only be valid for 1 week. The timeshare interval ownership, which was on that slide, those are a separate category. They're considered resident stickers with date limitations because people who own a portion of a timeshare, part of their fee is applied to the real estate tax of the property. So those we sold in 2020 and would continue to sell in 2021. But for a non-resident to get a sticker, you need to bring proof of where you're staying in Falmouth, dates. It could be an Airbnb confirmation. It could be a letter from a homeowner. It could be a relationship that is not qualified under our resident stickers. So if you're a child of a taxpayer over the age of 25, you don't qualify for a resident sticker, but you would qualify for a non-resident sticker if your family member said, you come to this house and stay in this house. And that is why those transactions have only ever been done in person, never part of the mail-in process, and not yet part of the online process, because the clerks at the L&T Mitchell Bathhouse would confirm the documentation before issuing the sticker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I guess my personal position would be that if Beach Committee is recommending it, I mean, they're the folks that really look at it. We are generally guided by our committees. That's sort of their role. And if they feel we should go back to that fee schedule and offer those, I would be inclined to follow their lead. And same is going to likely be true for whatever feedback they give us about parking lots in general. I mean, we know how much time they spend year round thinking about these issues. So that's just my feeling.
I agree.
I would agree with that as well.
Do you need us to vote that? No.
I don't think so. And just for the public's edification, and this is posted on the minutes of the February Beach Committee meeting when they made this motion. The non-resident stickers are about 650 to 800 stickers sold annually compared to 13,000 resident stickers. So, and again, if it's a 1-week sticker, it's a 1-week sticker, not a full season sticker competing for a space. So right. We do believe that the resident taxpayer sticker is still of great value. And
just a reminder that we do need our beaches. We ask many things of our beaches, and one is that we also ask them to generate money because beaches are expensive to maintain. And so we could make everything resident only, and it would, hurt our tourist industry, which is the lifeblood, but it would also mean that our beach department wouldn't make nearly as much money because beach stickers are still a pretty reasonable price for residents. If you look at someone buying a seasonal or a weekly pass, chances are they're not on a week pass going every single day to the beach, but they're paying that $80 or whatever it is. So we got to remember as well that we do need this endeavor to make some money for us. So
and
Nancy?
Maintain the beaches.
Yes.
And I was thinking about that also in terms of if they ever extended the hours of the beach openings, the lifeguards, the parking attendants. I would like to hear from the beach committee what their thoughts on that would be, because I've been asked a couple of times, I think since the weather's been getting nicer, if there's any way that the beaches could be open later and fully staffed. And again, I know that we'd like, the beaches to also pay for themselves, which is really nice. So I would just like to hear the beach committee's recommendations on that. If you'd bring
Great.
that would be
So maybe Maggie, you could communicate that to them and bring it back to us. Great.
Yes, of course. And the next time too, I will have the all Cape schedule to compare fees for the other municipalities.
Great. Maggie, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to vote to place charter review questions on the May 2021 municipal ballot and vote the order of the questions on the ballot. So if you okay, so in front of us we have the questions. They're in a particular order right now. So let's just start with, why don't we start with a single vote to place these on the ballot first, and then we can determine the order. Do I have a motion from the board to place question?
Place these 6 articles on the warrant.
Okay.
Patterson, second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call, Patterson. Oh,
Patterson.
sorry.
Just a clarification. Question 1 is exempting from the provisions for the paying for the Teach Kit school roof.
Yeah, you've already voted that.
Okay, so that's not really included in this then, right?
Top one.
It just needs to be included in the order that you determine.
Right.
But you've already voted to place it.
Okay.
It's just the charter issues that you need to vote to put on as a group.
Okay. So we had a motion and a second by roll call. Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Jones.
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay. Is there any particular order that anyone is wedded to?
I think the one that's been suggested makes sense.
Here.
Okay. Okay. That's Mr. Jones' motion. Do I have a second?
Patterson, second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call. Patterson.
Patterson, aye.
Jones.
Jones, aye.
Taylor.
Taylor, aye.
Brown.
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion on water conservation needs for the coming season. Mr. O'Brien should be coming in, I think. Yep.
And Mr. McConerty as well should be brought in.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Welcome to both of you. So go right ahead. I know the hour's late, so go right ahead and kind of fill us in on where we are and what your thoughts are going forward.
All right, you want me to start, Peter? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. We've presented an early version of what we would like to do to promote conservation in the town. Looking to have an odd, even water ban to hope to avoid what happened last summer. Rain and snow is below average. We're having even low humidity up in the past week. We've had some meteorology issues with fire control and so on. And we have some things that we're working on, as I put in the memo, in regards to the MMR tanks being painted so we can get a stable but not peak demand for a couple months. And then we're also trying to get Fresh Pond back online due to a number of contaminants. Our pilot plan was just approved last week by DEP, so we're going forward to get a full permit to get that back online for the summer. But based on the last several years, and I even had reviewed as recently as today the report Steve Rafferty had presented to you last summer, we want to be proactive rather than reactive. A lot of the anecdotal response from the customers we had in regards to it is they were kind of hoping we would have phased in the approach of a water ban to conserve. So what we did is we talked to staff, customers, and the other divisions within Peter's DPW. And Peter had wanted us to do a complete sweep and figure out what would be a way to phase in water conservation, with the hope that between the weather cooperating and people complying with what we'd like to present to you as a suggestion, that we may avoid going the full boat up until August. The odd even water ban we're suggesting the select board to consider would actually be based on customer and landscaper input as well as staff. It would be based on the days of the week. One of the biggest issues we had with previous voluntary odd even water bans in the town and why we got stuck last year was that most automated irrigation systems are set by the days of the week, not the date. So what ends up happening is even if a customer wants to comply, the automated controls at their home don't match with what the ban does. And so unless they manually change it every so often, it just doesn't match up. So what we had suggested is something for you to consider would be is to put in perhaps Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Monday seems to be our biggest day for our business community users and so on. And so based on the records at the plant that we keep daily, we would like, if at all possible, not to have watering on Mondays. And speaking to the landscapers and some of the customers that were really concerned about their lawns, if we can get people within the town to water every other day, the lawns will be healthier. They'll maintain their green color, add value to the property, but they'll use less water. And our biggest thing is we don't want to have when everyone uses their automated sprinklers, it's like there's a fire going on in town because all those solenoid valves open at once. And then there's an immediate demand between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. And people in places like Telegraph Hill and other high elevation places in town have very low pressure at that point. It becomes somewhat of a health issue. And then if any of you had to come out to Long Pond and look at the reservoir, Peter looked at it as recently as today, and him and I went out after, and he talked to me about it. We've been monitoring that almost daily, and the beach is very exposed. So we're anticipating if we don't get a wet spring and it's already April 5th and the rain today didn't really come, we have to be pragmatic. And we don't want to tell you as the select board or the residents that we have to ban, but everything we do now is going to prevent that. We suggested a later date in the month. Not sure what the select board would consider, but the sooner we can get odd even, the better. As recently as Thursday, a landscaper had called just asking if the ban would be lifted. I explained that it was up to the select board. They set the rules in the town and that we were going to suggest a slightly different option to make it a little bit of a halfway. So the landscapers and customers get some water for irrigation. The reservoir hopefully gets the chance to stabilize and maybe recover, and our flow in the morning doesn't drop like a rock. That's what we're really having issue with. We have one of the best plants in the state, but it's designed for a steady flow throughout the day to maintain everybody's pressure. It's not set up for massive irrigation that we do have in town. So we tried to come up with a way that would maintain everybody's lawns and also allow for quality water to be provided to the customer and buy us some time and hope for some rain. The toughest part we ran into this year is we didn't get a lot of snow. And if any of you have walked around the reservoir, we have some beautiful hills all along Long Pond. And they're like a camel's back. When we get good snow, rain doesn't help us as much because it runs down and it runs away. Snow stays on the ground, soaks into the soil, and stays in the savings account. And that recharges that reservoir just right. And same with our wells. So without a good amount of snow or even ice in the ponds, a lot of that storm water ends up just washing away, and we don't get our fair share of it when we want to distribute it to our customers. So that's it. I mean, we have a few things we're working on that we have to be cognizant of, like the MMR tank, the lower than average precipitation, the fresh pond well, still pushing as hard as we can to get that back online. But based on last summer, no matter what we do, we're going to have an issue with that high demand in the morning. And we don't want to have that for the customers. And we'd rather ask if we can get 50% reduction per day, that would be an enormous improvement. The treatment plant could cover that in a breeze. Then all we got to do is cross our fingers and hope for rain.
Thank you. It's really helpful to hear that. Peter, did you want to add anything to that?
No, just that, Cahal talked about the tank at the MMR that is going to be painted. They're going to be put offline. So, the staff of the MMR reached out to Cahal about the quantity of water. So we're going to be locked in for a certain quantity of water until that tank is put back online again. So the MMR is accounting for that water. And as Cahal had said, it's all dependent on the weather we're getting. We have not been getting a lot of rain this season. So we want to try this odd even. We like to call it a mandatory. We've tried it in the past and it hasn't really worked out so well because I don't think that the residents, the businesses really have bought into it in years past. But this year we really truly have to see if we can enforce that and put that into place, because if it doesn't work, we're going to need to go into further restrictions on that. And we're trying to avoid what happened last summer.
Yeah, I really appreciate the proactive. It was kind of like I know we had to do it last year, but it really was, it was kind of ripped that Band-Aid right off, and it was pretty painful for a lot of folks.
Yeah,
so.
And it was immediate, and we're trying to ease into this, and hopefully with the restrictions and we get some weather, some wet weather, we'll be able to maintain. But if you do go up to that pond, it's down by feet. I mean, there's a lot of beach area showing up there that I have not seen in recent years. So,
yeah, Cahal and then Doug Brown.
Yeah, so I just wanted to footnote off what Peter said, and I'll be as brief as I can, is that Peter's been really good with us since January on this. He's had us on task weekly to keep an eye on this. And one of the best things Peter had us do was go through all the records. And in looking, what we did is we took some of the angriest customer complaints during the ripping of the Band-Aid off. And that's where we came up with a collective idea of the days of the week. We're cautiously optimistic that if the select board agrees with the suggestion that we've presented or some variant of it, that in and of itself, every concerned citizen has spoken to us recently, has been pleasantly surprised that we as a team came up with a way that might actually be so simple. And the landscapers were really on board because they saw what happened. Like Peter said, if we do it again this year and it goes south, they know what happens. It's going to be all or nothing. So they're excited to stay in business, and they've all verbally committed that if this is the direction the town would like to pursue, that when they program everybody's systems in April and May, they'll plug it right into the 3 days those people get. And hopefully if it, the science backs it, if you have adequate water spaced out evenly, it's just like Mother Nature, the customer will be happy. So we got our fingers crossed.
Great. Thank you. Doug Brown.
I'd like to think of a way to try to improve on our water conservation. And I'm wondering if we can come up with some kind of a program to encourage people that have these older toilets that use 5 gallons of water to replace them. Maybe the town can get a vendor that will agree to stock a bunch of, maybe pick a brand like Toto white toilets that can be readily available, and try to make a program out of that for one thing. And I also like to see some kind of a program to encourage people to do their own wells. If they want irrigation, they should be on a well, especially in a sewered area, because it helps alleviate the problem of having the effluent in that peninsula. Like if we had a lot of people with wells out in the Mara Vista, that'd be that much quicker that the Bay would be quicker cleaned up. And so I like to try to strategize some of those ideas. I don't know if that's something that you guys would do, or if that's something we should come up with ourselves.
Yeah, probably a mixture of, go ahead, Peter, sorry.
No, I was just saying on the private wells. Yeah, I mean, we're lucky in the Upper Cape. We have the lens, the deep Upper Cape lens, but Sagamore lens. Private wells would be an ease off the town system, but it also has to be, just kept in mind that it's all coming from the same aquifer too. So at some point in time, if we do get into some severe droughts, that some restrictions may be put on the private wells. But yeah, folks on private wells, that would be very helpful to our systems,
right?
To the water system.
So just for tonight's purposes, are you looking for us to vote this, or do you want us to kind of just discuss it and then you're going to come back to us? What is helpful and sort of, yes, Julian, go ahead.
I think our initial thought was to present this to the board tonight. I think in the recommendation in the packet talks about potentially a May 22nd date that this would become operational. But if it would be most helpful to have the board vote it well in advance of that. So potentially, your next regular business meeting would be Monday, April 26th. Potentially, that'd be about a month in advance of the cutover date, if the board would so consider, unless you'd want to go with an earlier date.
I walk around Long Pond once or twice a week, and so I can attest to the low levels. I'm concerned about it, and we're getting a lot of press about us being in a climate crisis. This is part of it. Is the increase in temperature across the face of the planet is going to cause us to have a lot less regular rain. And it's going to come, unfortunately, in severe storms. But that's not the kind of thing that recharges your aquifer. Because I'm very much in favor of us just doing a year-round policy like this, so that it's not something that's put in place and then stopped and then put in place again. I think this just makes sense. And if we can get our landscapers to uniformly, program all of those clocks that turn on the irrigation, we're just that much further ahead. And Doug, Doug Brown, I like your idea too. If we can promote more water efficient toilet, and we're likely to see more people here on Cape Cod for the foreseeable future. And we've had quite a few people that decided this is a good place to live as a result of COVID-19. So I'm all in favor of going ahead and implementing this. And I wouldn't even wait to put it in place. I would just say, from here on, this is how we should manage irrigation of lawns.
Any other comments from the board?
I agree with sooner is better than later.
Okay. I know it doesn't say vote, so I guess we would, since it just says discussion on water conservation needs. So maybe I would ask you, Julian, to direct you to, for our very next meeting on that April date, we have a vote so that this can be implemented as soon as possible.
Will do.
Only to just stick with making sure that we comply with what's on the agenda, but.
Yeah, we can publicize that we're planning on making that change effective our next meeting. So
yes, right. Yeah, good point. So the idea would be we make that vote and it's effective immediately upon that vote. So that's when it would start, in that April 22nd. Is that the
26th?
26th. Okay. Thank you both, and I really appreciate the fact that you did the outreach to all the stakeholders in advance. I think that's key to get compliance and to come up with good policy. So huge thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Thank you.
Peter,
good night.
All right, so I'm going to read through our seasonal licenses. So let me just read through all of them. If someone needs to hold one for a reason, let me know. Otherwise, I'll read through them all. And then Sam, would you just second them and we'll go from there?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so approved 2021 annual seasonal license renewals. Common victual license, Smitty's Ice Cream, 326 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth. The Tea Room, 196 Crystal Springs Avenue, North Falmouth. Lodging House license, Captain's Manor Inn, 27 West Main Street, Falmouth. Elizabeth Hathon, 1665 North Falmouth Highway, North Falmouth. Frederick Williams House, 594 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth. Inn on the Sound, 313 Grand Avenue, Falmouth. Secondhand dealer license, Falmouth Stamp and Coin, 11 Town Hall Square, Falmouth. St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Shop, 18A, Davisville Road, East Falmouth. Trendy Tots, 426 Main Street, Falmouth.
Patterson, second.
I do have one question.
Yes.
On the tea room, does this mean this is the only license that's coming before us?
I don't think we've seen another license. Have we, Mr. Suso?
No, none to my knowledge.
Certainly there's enough talk of it the past 2 years that we were going to hear an application for a liquor license.
No, I don't think one is waiting in the wings as of right now.
No.
So. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Jones?
Jones, aye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Brown?
Brown, aye.
English Braga, aye. Okay, we have vote to approve and, review and vote to approve minutes of meetings. Public session, February 1, 2021. Any corrections?
I move that we approve and release for public access the minutes of Monday, February 1st, 2021.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, by roll call. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Brown?
Brown eye.
Taylor,
Taylor, aye.
Jones,
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. How about February 13th, 2021?
I move that we approve and release for public access the minutes of Saturday, February 13th, 2021.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call, Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Brown,
Brown eye.
Taylor,
Taylor, aye.
Jones,
Jones, aye.
English Braga, aye. And then we have executive session, March 22nd, 2021, sessions 1 and 2. We noted that there was a need to make a minor correction. With that correction, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve and not release the minutes of the executive sessions on Monday, that's 1 and 2, Monday, March the 22nd, 2021.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor, Patterson,
Patterson, aye.
Brown,
Brown eye.
Taylor,
Taylor, aye.
Jones,
Jones, aye. But if we could also ask Mr. Duffy if he could start looking through some of our executive sessions that we do need to release.
you just took the words right out of my mouth. So English Braga, I was just going to ask if we can kind of have Mr. Suso put that as a to-do. Because last time we got to just a really large amount. That was a little bit cumbersome.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Also, session 2, then it's voted to approve as corrected.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Individual selectmen reports. Anyone? Nancy.
Just quickly. So one of the things that we've been doing through the Affirmative Action Committee and also in a sub-working group with the town manager and the school superintendent is this job description that we'll be looking at tomorrow night. And I hope you've all had an opportunity to look at it. We have revised this several times. We've received feedback from the school committee. We've received feedback from the community. I'm just hoping that we can move on this position. We've spent tons and tons of time as a smaller group working on it. So I hope you'll all look at that and hopefully we can move it forward.
Great. Thank you. Yes, that's a good reminder. We have our meeting tomorrow with school committee, 7 p.m. To kind of look at a limited number of issues. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was 6:30 p.m. tomorrow.
7 is our start time.
I think it's 7. You know what, Sam?
Thanks.
I believe that the Zoom link might have said it opens at 6:30, but the actual posted time is 7.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. No, I just wanted to mention one thing. The liaison to the Affordable Housing Committee, and the issue that Doug Brown brought up about subsidizing affordable housing. The problem's just getting worse and worse. We can't create affordable housing up fast enough to really meet the needs, and the price of housing just keeps climbing at a very alarming rate. So anyway, there's a group that's trying to figure out ways to generate more revenues for the town that could be set aside for subsidizing affordable housing because of the criticality of the need. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to, I'm sorry, excuse me, town manager's report, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I was pleased to attend the first 2 virtual precinct meetings last week, and I'll be attending the final 2 gatherings on Wednesday and Thursday of this week in anticipation of our Monday, April 12th virtual town meeting gathering. Also, let's see. We're very pleased that the downtown concrete sidewalk replacement process has been completed by the contractor. There's a few other sections that'll be replaced in the next couple of days to come, bringing that portion of the water replacement project to closure. And the Main Street resurfacing from Shore to Falmouth Heights Road is beginning tomorrow, as we've reported to the board already. That's a long awaited and a welcomed improvement. Also, Town Hall and Town Administrative Offices will be closed on Monday, April 19th for the Patriots Day holiday. And as we've noted, the board's next regular business meeting will be Monday, April 26th. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
Patterson, second.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn, a second. By roll call, please. Patterson?
Patterson, aye.
Brown?
Brown eye.
Taylor?
Taylor, aye.
Jones?
Jones, aye.
English, Braga, aye. Great, thank you all. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks.